major league invite. So we'll see whether or not.
Some more depth.
Yeah.
In spring.
Talk about some of that as well, obviously, with him coming up at 11. I was watching, as we all were, the NFC and AFC championship games. And the AFC championship game unwatchable for a million reasons.
Well, it really was.
Look, I still liked it whether impacts sports, and we can talk about that later in the show. I still enjoy that part of it. But it was a miserable, stylistic football game. I can admit that. The other end, beautiful. Fun to watch. And I have never been, in watching that game, watching JSN and Puka Nacua go back and forth. Okay, please. And I know, like, when I said, like, I sent out a simple tweet or whatever that said, I want a JSN and Kinsey Dark. Well, we had that in Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I know. I watched it. I want it again. What do you think? We just get it once and I'm all locked in? No. In watching Jackson Smith and Jigba, in watching Kenneth Walker, in watching Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, in watching these guys, Gold, it should make you realize how important it is to have at least one elite level weapon on your team. And as a matter of fact, those guys were so good in that game, it just reinvigorates me every time to strongly consider a wide receiver at 9. And I'll be honest, I've started to actually watch some of those guys. I don't normally do that because I don't know who the hell's going to fall to him at 31. What am I going to do? Watch all 78 players that could possibly be there? Well, that seems unrealistic. At 9, I don't have to work that hard. I got to watch 3 wide receivers. Tate, Tyson, Mekhi Lemon. That's it. That's the whole list. And I am talking, and I can't believe you're going to be mad at me, I think. Because the second I tell you, I am talking myself into the JSN type, the type of wide receiver I think they need, the route running proficiency need. I think it might be Lemon. I think even more than Tate or Tyson, I think it might be Mekhi Lemon at number 9. But I do think that they should strongly consider wide receiver, even if it's the other 2 guys you would prefer.
I'm definitely not anti-wide receiver at 9. We've talked. Really, the only position I'm anti at 9 is running back and offensive tackle. Other than that, you can kind of make a case and talk me into some other positions. You know my preference is defensive lineman.
And that's more than reasonable.
But wide receiver, I think we all recognize they need somebody that can win one-on-one in man coverage badly. And sure, we thought that they already had that guy, but I don't think they do. So, okay. That's an issue for them moving forward. This year's not the best wide receiver class, but if you're going to draft a wide receiver, certainly one of the top guys would be Lemon or Carnell Tate or somebody. Although I think if we were to look at this year's wide receivers that are coming out compared to next year, maybe Drew disagrees with me based off of some of the college tape, but I think Carnell Tate would be like the 4th receiver taken next year. That's the question. Like, how good
are
you?
Should I be taking one at 9 in a draft?
No, look,
but there aren't a lot of first-round talents just across the board.
Correct. It's not the best skill position draft. The reason why you said you don't think I would like it, it's not because the JSN comp is great. You guys remember 3 years ago, Jackson Smith and Jigba was someone I was very much a high. We had to give our dream draft pick. We do this every year, right? We get close to the draft. We say, who's your dream pick that you think the Chiefs should draft or whatever? And at that time, it was Jackson Smith and Jigba, but the Chiefs were drafting. They would have had to trade up 12 spots or whatever it was to get
he
him.
went 20th.
So that wasn't going to happen. But by all means, I would love a Jackson Smith and Jigba, of course. I get a little worried about Lemon. I understand the skill set looks a little similar. It's the height thing. He's
5'11".
That's the only part that scares me a bit.
He's 200 pounds. But he's not, he's not 5 foot. He's not Sky Moore, right? Sure. I know that because Sky Moore was even shorter than that and even skinnier than that. I just think from a skill set perspective, and he was a 2-year producer at USC, which I think matters, especially at wide receiver. And this previous year, if you really, and I'm not saying I didn't just watch a highlight tape. I was reading some scouting stuff and the way he plays and this other stuff. I just think he might be a schematic fit to go with it. And I do think, and this is the one thing, I'm trying not to I'm not counting out Rashee Rice, right? I think Rashee Rice, no matter what, obviously has some talent and possesses some skill. Even in the games he played this year, he technically averaged as many yards per game this year as he did his, actually 13 yards more than he did his rookie year, right? The same amount he was averaging in those 4 games last year that we were talking about, that he was on pace to be a star, he averaged the same amount this season. So, if you just average it out on a per-game basis, Rashee Rice, in the games he played, he averaged 71, let's just call it 71. It was in a decimal, yards per game. He'd be a 1,200-yard wide receiver. So if all I'm trying to do is draft another 12 to 1,400 yard wide receiver, my problem is I don't think he's ever going to put it together for those full 17 games to be that. I think he might cap out at like 1,000-yard guy, which means I still want like the dude. And in addition to that, I still don't feel like you can have any confidence that even if Rashee Rice turns into a 1,000-yard guy and you feel like you got it solved, am I for sure giving him a long-term contract? Like, that's got to be up to question just the same. And so, like, that's what makes it tempting, I think, in that spot.
I'm not on the contract part. We know, fast forward a year from now, Rashee Rice could be out the door. So then you have Xavier Worthy under contract, and that's about it. As far as the and Jalen Royals, I'm sorry. Those would be the two wide receivers you would have really under contract. But if we agree that next year's draft is a much better wide receiver draft, skill position draft, and I know you won't be picking ninth then, I understand that. But if there's a little more depth in that draft, is next year the draft where you spend your first-round pick on a wide receiver again, and you also maybe have a little more wiggle room in free agency because you'll have your situation, whatever direction you go in with Trent McDuffie, resolved by a year from now. You'll just have a better feel of where things are at. It also could be, Travis Kelce, we all right now kind of think he's coming back. So, okay, this year, can you get by with drafting a wide receiver and signing a mid-level free agent wide receiver, and you draft a wide receiver in the second or third round this year because you still have Rice and Worthy and Kelce going in? Because we all agree the offense, was it partially personnel? Absolutely. Was it a lot of scheme? I think so. And so if the scheme adjusts a little bit and you bring in one or two pieces, including a running back to the offense, does that fix this to where they're back to being a top 10 offense in football? I think there is a scenario where that plays out. I think so much of it is on the scheme, as much as we want to talk about the personnel not being what it is. Like Hollywood Brown is not going to be back this year, I think is pretty safe to say. But
I would hope not.
In terms of who you're going to find in free agency or who you're going to find in the second round, I don't know if you're finding anybody that's better than him. I think ultimately it got to a point where we started talking as if he just stinks. I think so much they did not, and this goes to the Connor Embry wide receiver development, all that, they did not know how to utilize some of the talent that they had either.
Like Hollywood finished with a little less than 600, I think, total yards. He was technically, I think, their second leading receiver behind Travis Kelce. Partially because he played the entire season and Rashee Rice obviously didn't. So some of it was certainly that. Look, this goes back to the free agency dollars spent. Rather than go and pay $10 million to a third-tier wide receiver in Hollywood Brown for the third consecutive year, I'd rather spend that money on the top-end running back. And some of this goes back to the prioritization of who you valued and who you went after. Look, I'm sure when they gave Elijah Mitchell the money, they thought he was going to be as good as Javonte Williams, who was far better bang for your buck on the free agency market. But it's time for them to take like a known commodity. Like if they're going to spend free agency dollars at running back, they either have to pay multiple or pay like a dude, pay Breece Hall, pay somebody you're getting a certain amount of talent out of. And look, I don't know which wide receiver, and I guess I'm curious which one you guys like the best, 913-586-7965. I'm not sure which one is the perfect fit for the Chiefs, but I'm starting to feel like it might be Lemon. But like at number 9, just watch. Like this was the problem. It was like I was imagining a draft in my head of if we just put all the skill position guys on the field between the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Chiefs. How many guys would I take off of those two teams before I started taking Chiefs players? And it just made me realize the talent deficit that they've been operating on. I understand some of it is definitely scheme, but they are operating at a talent deficit because they misevaluated the talent they had at wide receiver. Like, they thought that they were going to get all these guys turned around, and they kept relying on old reliable. Like, come out there, Juju Smith-Schuster, and catch a slant because we couldn't develop any of these other guys to do it consistently.
Everybody keeps text line brought it up. You just mentioned his name. Everybody's acting like they were relying on Juju Smith. That's a bit of a.
I just mean when they're getting lower on the
Juju Smith-Schuster was part of the wide receiver room, and he filled a certain role for them. But we're like acting like they were never counting on Juju Smith-Schuster in their wide receiver room to be the guy. Like we're making it sound like now like the wide receiver room that had Worthy right and and they had Juju out there.
It's probably because 2 years ago he was their number one wide receiver.
Such a small piece of the wide receiver room. He helped them in blocking more than anything else, quite honestly. So, yeah, I mean, the reality, though, is Worthy and Rice are on this team next year. So, yeah, Brown, they shouldn't bring him back. Juju, I would not bring him back at this point in time either. But I'm just saying the wide receiver room is going to be Worthy, Rice, Royals, and then who? Is it a free agent wide receiver? Is it a top draft pick? Like, that's the two guys at the top, unless they spend 9 overall, Worthy and Rice will be the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers, barring something completely shocking. I know we have our dream list of
Kelsey,
sure,
guess,
go
if he's
fine. If we would, yeah. I mean, we had the dream list of them going and getting somebody like Brandon Ayuk, or you want them to go get a Juwan Jennings or whatever. Sure, we can have that conversation again. You want them to trade for Brian Thomas. Like,
what's weird, though, is like rather than pay Juwan Jennings, I would rather than pay a top-end running back. So, like, at number 9, it makes sense for me. Paying top-end wide receiver, mid-tier wide receiver money, I get more reticent on that because I feel like for that same price, I can get a star back and just hope that Chad O'Shea, is that the name of the new wide receiver? Yep. I hope that Chad O'Shea can teach someone where a sideline is or how to run a route, how to get down the seam. Because
it's like night and day night and day the experience that they now have at wide receiver coach compared to what they had.
Because here's the wide receiver numbers as it finished last season. It's embarrassing. So Travis Kelce led the team. We'll set him aside for a minute. He's a tight end. Hollywood Brown was their leading wide receiver at 587 yards. Rice at 571. He played half as many games as Hollywood Brown. I want to make that clear. So he would have been a 1,000-yard receiver, but just barely. Worthy, 532, but he played 13 games. So he would have been, I don't know, a 600-yard wide receiver.
And hurt all year.
Yeah. Juju Smith-Schuster, 345. And then there's no other wide receiver even listed. Jalen Royals is the next guy with 4 yards. So it's just an embarrassing, like, that can't all be scheme. Because I've seen their scheme get other guys open occasionally.
Sure.
I think some of this is, and this is where, like, I'm ready for, like, at number 9, why can we talked into it? I don't want them rolling back the same group for a third consecutive year. You're going to do something different with this group. It can't be Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, it's been the same group, almost identical for 2 years.
I think it's going to be Rice, Worthy, and potentially Thornton.
Yeah,
and then the question
that's
is,
fine. I'll take some change. It doesn't have to be all 5 need to be different.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm not asking for the entire.
I mean, the 2 main pieces are back, so it is a combination of if it's going to get better, it's going to be scheme, and it's going to be developing Xavier Worthy, and it's going to be keeping Rashee Rice in an offseason that's a month longer than normal, keeping him out of trouble. That's the offseason goal for him, I think. My goodness.
Before we make a quick shift, what is your just like January 27th estimate for where you think Rashee Rice would finish in receiving yardage this year? He plays all 17 games in this hypothetical.
And he plays all 17.
That gets in no trouble, doesn't get hurt.
And Mahomes is playing week 1 in this hypothetical?
Mahomes is playing week 3.
Okay.
I'll give you like most of a Mahomes season, but an entire Rice year.
Contract year for Rashee Rice, his future earnings, and we all know he needs the money based off of civil suits, et cetera, that he hasn't paid out yet.
1,100, 1,200?
Yeah, 1,250.
Ooh, that's a decently high number, so we'll see. We'll see.
By the way, we got some breaking news on the stadium front. Let's pivot away from this for a second. This comes from Jonathan Ketz of Fox 4. Let me just read you his tweet. Breaking news out of Overland Park. The Royals confirmed to Fox 4's John Holt that they are no longer interested in building their stadium at the Asperia campus at 119th and Knoll. It's a big shift.
Well,
we know that was becoming almost a leading site prior to the end of the year, where there was a lot of speculation that the Royals were going to be the first to announce their move to Kansas. The Chiefs maybe jumped the line, whatever happened. There's a lot of speculation that the city of Overland Park and T-Mobile have played a huge role in why this maybe has not happened at 119th and Knoll. Then we were already planning on discussing, ironically enough, right now anyway, the news from yesterday, which was that a representative,
rundown, boys.
A representative on the Missouri side of the state line, Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones. I was waiting. Thank you for playing along.
I got you.
He said that he had heard that Quentin Lucas was willing to use $500 million in taxpayer funds through the KC Port Authority, not requiring a public vote, to help fund a Royal Stadium in KC-Mo. The mayor's office has put out a statement since then, and we can read that in a second. But what do you make of this? So, again, from John Holt, actually, from Jonathan Ketz, but it was John Holt News, that they are no longer interested, the Royals are, in the 119th and Knoll.
I got to say, I do not think that would be confirmed publicly unless they were getting ready to announce a move to Missouri. Like, I
don't know.
The only other site, and I'll just, like, in back channel, the only other site that I've heard on the Kansas side as it relates to the Royals is something closer to the river, in the idea of like the KCK side, essentially, of the river, in a hope to like get it on this. So like the only other, and that's, I'm not even saying like, I'm putting that, I don't want to say like, that's not a report. That's me just telling you, and any of the people I've ever talked to, it's the only other Kansas site I've even heard mentioned by people. I've heard plenty of sites on the Missouri side, including Clay and Jackson County get mentioned, and the timing of the $500 million report leaking from the Missouri rep, and then the mayor's office feeling like I need to respond. I don't know. It feels like a little momentum on the Missouri side. If you're going to make me take a guess based at like reading the tea leaves here.
So again, the mayor's office put out a statement in response to the suggestion that they are looking at directing $500 million toward a new Royal Stadium in KC Mo. Of course, the state rep, Mike Jones, said that right now the proposal wouldn't need a public vote. He is introducing legislation that would require a vote. Anything over $100 million towards a stadium would require a public vote, even if it's city money, not state money necessarily. But the mayor's office put out a statement, quote, "The mayor has great respect for the previous work of the Missouri legislature, including the representation in approving the Show Me Sports Investment Act that provides hundreds of millions of dollars in funding to support the retention of professional sports in Missouri. Mayor Lucas cannot speak to proposals to change language passed by the representative and his colleagues mere months ago. The mayor will continue to work diligently and expeditiously with all public stakeholders to ensure a package exists to retain the Royals that is fair to our taxpayers and supportive of the team. Any proposal would come before City Council, include public input like every substantial economic development proposal in Kansas City. The mayor has nothing to add to further unfounded speculation surrounding this issue." That is from the mayor's office.
I'm sorry, that's a non-answer.
That's
not saying
yesterday.
That's not saying it's not true that I'm trying to move $500 million to pay for the stadium. It's just saying I won't speculate based on the actions of other people in state legislatures, including the one in which I work for. Look, Jonathan Katz and John Holtz are incredibly sourced up in this city. So if Jonathan Katz, who's been following the stadium stuff, as you know, from the very beginning, and maybe we can get him on the show later on, but if he's reporting that they are no longer interested in building their stadium at the Asperia campus at 119th and all, I am to believe that that is probably a relatively accurate, or at least at the time, accurate statement out of Katz. Like, things change and things move. I'm not saying it's a 0% now. We've learned this lesson the hard way a couple of other times. Never speak in absolutes when it comes to these deals, I guess, as it currently sits. And so you got to really think about it in that case. Look, I hate the 119th side. I've made that very clear. It's not, and I never thought that the stadium couldn't be cool or that I would never go to it. I hated the site. I still hate the site. I hope it doesn't go there. I'm actively rooting against it going there. There's 100 better sites in the city, that's an over-exaggeration, that I would prefer it goes to, including your and I's preference, downtown, which is downtown baseball. I would also prefer Clay to that one. The North Kansas City location interests me far more than the 119th spot. So if this is true, I'm excited because that means it's not going to go there, but it just feels like tea leaf momentum. No, I know. Tea leaf momentum would suggest maybe this is like, maybe Missouri's got a little bit something going. I'm not saying it's a for sure thing, but maybe they got something going.
So I don't know, but I'm not excited because I want to know that there still is a solution that keeps the Royals in Kansas City, and I know you do as well. That'd be the only part. Like, yes, it is not been my preference that they go to 119th and Null. And again, if you're just joining us, Jonathan Katz and John Holt at Fox 4 reporting that the Royals have confirmed to them they are no longer interested in building a stadium there at the Asperia campus on 119th and Null. Yeah, and that just on a surface. Yes, I'm glad to a certain degree, but I want to make sure that, Cody, that they have a site in either KC Mo or a site in North Kansas City or whatever before I get excited about it. Now we are going to, as you said, try to maybe get Jonathan Katz on the show a little bit later on for more on this. But that's an interesting development to say the least. And yeah, the timing is more than a coincidence, I would think, based off of yesterday. I still think if you go back to the end of December, I know with the holidays and stuff and some of the shows got jumbled up and we weren't on the air as much right around, of course, New Year's and Christmas. But at that time, leading into the Chiefs announcement, at that point, most of the momentum was that, hey, the Royals are really close to announcing this. And then you started to see what? You started to see local businesses around that town center area in the 119th and Null side.
And all these other
HOAs, but T-Mobile is the biggest player in that whole thing. We all know T-Mobile's got the campus. It's the Asperia campus, but T-Mobile still has headquarters there. One of their headquarters, they're based out of Washington, but they still have, what do we look it up? We looked it up this morning, like 5,000 or 6,000 employees or something.
Something like that.
In the Kansas,
it used to be like 20 or 25,000.
in the Kansas City area, and yeah, they have slowly scaled their workforce back in the Kansas City area. But how much is Overland Park and T-Mobile part of this? And then how much is it just, we've seen the backlash, I'll call it, to the details on the Chiefs deal and the reaction as more and more of the details have come out about the Star Bond District and what that contains and how large it is. Yeah. And there's representatives in Kansas on the other side of the state line, or not state line, but other side of the state, I'm sorry, western, middle of Kansas, central Kansas, western Kansas, that aren't thrilled with the amount of money that's going to be used. And then you were going to try to get something done with the Royals on top of it. I think all of that has led to perhaps what we're seeing play out today.
I have an official statement from the Royals. Okay. Quote, as stated when the Asperia mortgage was acquired, the investment was made to maintain the site as an option for a Kansas City Royals stadium. After significant evaluation, we do not believe this site meets our criteria for a stadium. We continue to evaluate opportunities throughout the Kansas City metropolitan area to create a world-class ballpark district. As always, we hear and appreciate the input of our fans throughout the region. We remain hard at work toward the best solution for our team, fans, partners, and community. So they're confirming, the Royals are officially confirming, they're out on the Asperia site. That one's not going to hit. That's a statement directly from the team. So that's them confirming not there, but they're also tiptoeing around the as we continue. And look, we talked a little bit about this. At some point, this team's going to have to find and choose a home. It's and I get it, man. It's not an easy process. It's not. Convincing hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer-funded stadiums and site selections and ballpark districts. I'm not claiming it's easy. But I'll say this. I agree with the Royals' assessment that the 119th site doesn't work. I don't know for what reasons. I don't care if it's because OP doesn't want it or a million other things. That site never worked, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there are a ton of reasons why it ultimately has got to this point with that site. But yes, the day that we first heard about the 119th and Null site, the first reaction was you got to be kidding. You're just going to plop it right there with the current infrastructure that's set up, and just, it's one thing to build in the suburbs, but just to drop it right there. It was a weird site. It always was a weird site. Now, do I think they could have made it work? Absolutely. I think they could have made it work. I think they wanted to make it work, but a lot of things in the last month have changed, and I think we've addressed a couple of the reasons there. Some of it is the Royals are to blame. Some of it I do think is the pushback from Overland Park itself, from T-Mobile, and from some other power brokers in that area. Let's not forget also the J. The J owns a huge chunk of land there. There was discussions there about the land. I know Fesco has been reporting on that in the past about the J and land swaps with Black and Veatch, et cetera, on the air. He's talked about that. So here we are, 119th and Null. To this point, according to the Royals as well now, confirming they are done with that site. That is, wherever they're going to build a stadium, it's not going to be there.
Yeah, look, I'm glad for that. But you're right. I do want them to still find a home in the Kansas City area. You and I have talked about this before. I still think, and I could be wrong, I still think they would fear a public vote. Don't you? Don't you think that they would still fear in some way a public vote? That would be a challenging
in the climate
or scary?
Of the 2026 climate around public financing and raising taxes on people, yeah, I think there is still an immense amount of risk involved with going to a public vote. And I'm not anti, let the public decide. I'm just saying, if you're trying to, this is where the Quentin Lucas stuff from yesterday was interesting. If you're trying to get a downtown stadium done in KC-Mo, the simplest way, I'm not saying it's the best way, the simplest way to accomplish said goal, if that's what your goal is to do allegedly what they might be trying to do, which is use the KC Port Authority, Cody, to utilize $500 million in taxpayer funds without a public vote.
I think there might be something to that. I don't know what to say, but we can't ignore the timing, right? You and I can't just ignore the timing, Gold, that right as that report came out, that now they're saying, well, we're not doing the Asperia site. I don't know. I have a hard time imagining that's not the case. We obviously will not ask JJ about this, coming up at 11 because he doesn't know anything about it, and I'd just be wasting your time.
Completely different side of the organization.
Yeah.
But we are efforting. Perhaps Jonathan Katz also check it in to see if Fesco has any information on this as well, if he wants to come on the show. So we'll see. We'll keep talking about this throughout the show today. If you're just joining us again, the report initially from Fox 4, and then the Royals put out a statement as well that they are confirming that the club is no longer interested in building a stadium at the Asperia campus at 119th and Null. Up next, we will get back into some football unless we get some more information during the break there on the stadium front. Talk about what we're seeing from three of the quarterbacks that were just playing this past weekend and what it might tell us about the Chiefs offense in 2026.
This is Cody and Gold on your new home for Chiefs football. 96.5, The Fan. Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
At Kansas City Proton Institute, we're delivering the future of cancer care with state-of-the-art proton therapy right here in KC. If you have breast, head and neck, or brain cancer, proton therapy may be a better treatment than conventional radiation. Don't wait. Get your second opinion at Kansas City Proton Institute. Come see Kansas City's largest, most experienced, and most advanced proton therapy team. Learn more at kcpi.com. Kansas City Proton Institute, where you see the best in KC.
Sadly, football season is coming to a close, but it's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to place your bets before the NFL season closes its tab. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're in on it. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $2,000 in bonus bets if you win. So whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, make it count. Because after the Super Bowl, the season's over, and football is done. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com/local to get started. That's FanDuel.com/local. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official sportsbook of 96.5 The Fan. 21 and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com.
When it was time to paint the inside of our home, we made one call, and that was the Serta Pro Painters, and the experience was amazing. They took all the stress about the job away from me, and they'll do the same for you. And now's the time to get that painting project completed that you've been putting off. Each Serta Pro Painters business is independently owned and operated right here in Kansas City. So schedule your free estimate online at CertaPro.com. That's Serta with a C. When choosing a painting professional, the choice is simple. Choose happy. Choose Serta Pro Painters.
The new era of UFC on Paramount Plus continues. Live from Australia. Featherweight champ Alexander Volkanovski.
He is an animal.
Defends his belt at home in an explosive rematch against Diego Lopez.
You gotta be kidding me.
And the always dangerous Dan Hooker throws down with powerhouse Benoit Saint-Denis in a high-action lightweight showdown.
There's never been anything like this.
UFC 325, Saturday, January 31st, only on Paramount Plus.
Well, good morning, kiddo. I love that you're home from college. I've missed you.
Still taking your Nature-Made vitamins?
Every day. A multivitamin and a probiotic. You better be taking yours.
Still looking out for me, Mom.
I'll never stop.
Made to care for you every day. Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand. Find us in the vitamin aisle, based on a survey of pharmacists who recommend branded vitamins and supplements.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-323-8922. 800-323-8922. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-323-8922.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the DM Injury Law Studios. Mike's got this.
Car, truck, or motorcycle wreck? Remember, Mike's got this.
816-888-7500. Mike's got this.
All right, back here on Cody and Gold, Alex Gold, Cody Tapp, Drew Nixon with you. Coming up in a half hour, we'll have the general manager of the Kansas City Royals, JJ Picollo, joining us. We'll be talking baseball. Remember, he's on the baseball side, so if you're wondering, we're not going to talk stadium with JJ Picollo, but I do want to pick the brain of Bob Fesco a little bit. He's been all over the stadium stuff, the Chiefs, the Royals for the last 2+ years at this point in time. He just got off the air. He's kind enough to still be in the building to pop on for a few minutes. The news in the last 15 minutes or so, the Royals putting out a statement that's saying, quote, after significant evaluation, we do not believe the 119th and Null site meets our criteria for a stadium. We continue to evaluate opportunities throughout the Kansas City metro area to create a world-class ballpark district. Is your reaction to that? I know you were in the last 3 weeks or so, it's started to trend a little less, likely of the 119th and Null site.
Well, yeah, it has, and that's because the people in Topeka that I spoke to on the 22nd when the Chiefs thing was going on were under the impression that they had a deal done with the Kansas City Royals, because I had numerous people say, we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the Royals announcement. So there was the belief of the people in Topeka that they had a deal done with the Royals. I had heard from some people recently, they believed that they had a deal done with the Royals back in September in the state of Kansas. And so now here we sit where, I don't know what's going to happen. This downtown stuff is very interesting, because it seems to me anyway that they're trying to go around the will of the voters and put a stadium downtown and spend $500 million of public money by going through the port and going around the will of the voters in essentially the same spot that the voters told them no 2 years ago. So it's very interesting to watch how this all plays out. But I think the state of Kansas got to the point of they believed that they had a deal done with the Kansas City Royals, and here we sit, But
in a way, they were foolish for thinking that. They were awfully bullish. It seems like in their predictions of they're coming here, it's going at 119th. They seemed awfully sure of that for something that's not happening.
Well, you don't speak that way unless you think you got the deal done. Yeah. And so I think we can see in all of this, the Northland stuff, the downtown, the first go around. I don't know what the Royals' plan is, and I don't know what the Royals want after this, because the site at 119th and Null would have been perfect for a ballpark village. That's where your ancillary money is. That's where the people live. Everybody within a 5-mile radius, I should say 50% of the season ticket holders are in a 5-mile radius of there. 70% of people who went to more than one game were in a 10-mile radius of there. That's where the people is. That's where the population has moved. And downtown has said, we don't want for you to be here. They voted on it by a 60-40 margin 2 years ago. And so now kind of going around the will of the voters with the sport things, the way that I view it. And I think Kansas got to the point of we're just tired of all of this, and we'll see you later. Because I talked to people on the Kansas side yesterday, and they're like, we're done negotiating with these guys. We're done.
I guess it's so weird because of the 119th side. I don't disagree with the population part, but it's never what the Royals wanted. And I just from a city sense, I never thought it was a very good fit. And so, I understand, it can be CYA that they're just it didn't fit for the stadium versus they don't want us to put it there anymore. It could go, obviously, both ways as it relates to that. Mm-hmm. But, I assume they're still considering multiple Kansas sites and multiple Missouri sites.
I don't think they're considering anything in Kansas anymore. I think Kansas told them we're done. We had a deal, we thought, and here we sit. How many deadlines have the Royals missed, too, on all this kind of stuff,
Yeah, I think it was Kansas Speaker Dan Hawkins, right? I believe it was 3+ weeks ago where he came out and was like, "No, we're done." And everybody's like, "Are you really done?" And admittedly, I was. Are you really done? And
right.
They weren't kidding.
No, they were done negotiating. Done. You've got our offer. We've come to an agreement on this offer. This is what we have on the table. This is what we're offering to you. We believe that, again, I talked to so many people in Topeka that were like, wow, we'll see you in 2 weeks. We wanted to do each one separately. There were many people in the state of Kansas that had this thing was done with the Kansas City Royals. I think they believe they had to deal with the Royals before they had to deal with the Chiefs.
Do you think also, other than the Royals themselves, do you think, though, the Overland Park, the noise out of Overland Park, T-Mobile, the complication there, given the fact that they're a corporation and 5,000 plus employees. Then you've talked on there in the past about the J and the land issue there. Was it just everything that ultimately is why people, I don't know, cold feet's the wrong word, wrong phrase, but what was that a contributing factor?
I think ultimately from the day that John Sherman bought the team, he's wanted a downtown stadium, and that's what he's wanted to do. And so here we sit. I've always wanted downtown baseball. But are you going to have enough area at Washington Square Park to build a village to generate money 365 like you would have out south? I'll be honest with you. I live in Overland Park. I'm not going to the Royals Village in December, but I would go spend my money at the Royals Village if it was by me. I don't know how many people are going to go downtown in November and December when there's no games going on out there. But if you build it out where the population center of the city is, 600,000 people in Johnson County now, you build that out there, that becomes a real 365-day-a-year venue where people can go spend their money based on the fact that there is disposable income out there and it's easy to get to for people out there. and it's a desirable place with a lot of parking over there where people can get to as well. I don't know if people are going to matriculate downtown to go do downtown things when there's nothing going on at that stadium at that point.
Do you think more than ever, though, and I'm talking even right after the vote failed, 2 Aprils ago or whatever it is at this point in time, do you think the Royals' stability in the Metro is more at risk than it's ever been, though? If Kansas is out of it now, that was the whole thing before. Hey, we got two sides of the state line. It's a great thing because they're gonna fight for this team and make sure they stay in Kansas City. And I still believe ultimately John Sherman and this ownership group based in Kansas City, that's their goal, is to stay in Kansas City. But knowing that your options are getting fewer and fewer here, is it more in jeopardy than ever?
Well, I obviously, yes, I would say that, but I don't think it's in jeopardy, right? I don't think the Royals are going anywhere and whatnot. They'll either be in downtown or Kauffman Stadium at this point. I don't know, at this point in time, because, again, as all this lead up, everybody was under the impression that this thing was, they sent out a press release about somebody of their ownership buying that land.
Yeah, the mortgage on the 119th and Null side, the Spiria campus.
Yeah, obviously in their statement now they're saying, and they said at the time, I think, as a part of that statement.
Why would you release a statement at that time? They've got how many owners buying a property all over this city?
I think it was because the reporting had come out.
No.
Genuinely, I thought it was because the reporting came out and they're like, well, everyone's going to assume we're going to 119th now. We better say something.
The reporting came out because I said it, and then they, sent out a press release about it. I haven't seen a press release about any other land that was purchased, about any other thing.
No.
That was the only time that the Royals sent out a press release through this whole stadium thing, and maybe that's
because
part
I think
of
it
the
was a real
problem,
side
too.
consideration.
Of course it was a done deal, Cody. It was a done deal in Kansas. When I have people in Topeka saying, "We'll see you in 2 weeks to do this again."
They're in a weird spot, and they do have to make some kind of decision making on it here soon. I don't know how it'll go in the Missouri.
It's so going to be interesting downtown to see now how people go against this thing too. If they're going to try to Washington Square Park this thing,
it's so weird because it's mixed feelings about the circumventing of the voters, because I do think people should have a say in it.
Yeah,
but Kansas also just circumvented the voters in a
they
big way
have
too.
the plans in place to do that.
Yeah,
right?
no, I know.
Yeah.
This would be a back channel way of circumventing the voters, but they both would be we're deciding for you that we're putting this tax on you, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But one doesn't feel less dirty to me in a lot of ways.
Starbond's been around for 30-something years or whatever.
No,
it's been
but
something.
not coughing up $3 billion or whatever.
Of course not. Absolutely, that's true. I think I
feel about the same about him, I guess, is all I'm saying.
Do the Royals want a public vote? Can they afford a public vote?
I don't think
that's you go through the port. You don't need the public vote. But people are saying, wait a second here. Now you're usurping the public by using the port and going around the public when the public literally told you 2 years ago no for basically the same site.
I do still think, and that's always the thing we'll never know.
The East Village side was the best
site.
Well,
it was the best site all along. That's where it should have been.
How many points did they lose by allowing business interests to push them to the worst downtown site and what will still be, I think, an intentionally bad plan by the Chiefs? Here's my I don't really want to be here, but look, I tried.
Right.
You forced me to go to Kansas plan. They thought on paper, what is the worst conceivable plan and renovation we can put together for Arrowhead for you to vote on?
Right.
And so, I don't know how many points they lost for that. I can tell you if they went to East Village or they went to Washington Square Park with no Chiefs attached to it for less tax, they're going to close the gap of 16 points. All the gap? I don't know. It'll be closer, but I still think that they would want to avoid a public vote.
And exactly right. I'm with you. That's why they're using the port in all of this, to try to avoid the public vote. But I've already seen people online complaining about it already. And so, it's just if you're the Royals, why do you want to wade back into this PR battle again?
Yeah. Bills have just hired a new head coach, by the way.
Who they hired?
Yeah. Joe Brady.
So they just promoted within. Joe Brady was their OC. So after all that, Ryan Dable, Brady, Shieldhouse, et cetera, they just promoted.
Promoted offensive coordinator Joe Brady, franchise new head coach. Sources tell The Athletic. 5-year deal for Joe Brady.
Well, we got a lot going on today all of a sudden in the first hour. Bob, appreciate you coming in, man.
Busy.
Bob Fesco, of course. Fesco and Dusty, 6 to 10. Right here on 96.5 The Fan. Coming up in 20 minutes, we will have JJ Picollo, Royals general manager, joining us. That was already scheduled. We'll talk baseball with him. But we, of course, got the stadium news here in the first hour of the show. Now you're telling me the Bills have a brand new head coach as well. Look,
is this doing enough? So the whole thing was not anything they were doing offensively, anything they had in the coaching staff. It was just the person in charge, just the one person. They're all part of the same staff. This feels like a lateral-ish move? Maybe a slight half step back? I don't know.
It makes you wonder, was there something else, other than the power struggle, which seems even more evident now that you're telling me they're just going to promote Joe Brady? It truly just sounds like Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott didn't get along for years, and ownership chose Brandon Beane. Now, has Sean McDermott years prior probably made decisions in the playoffs that could lead to his firing? Yeah. But this was not the year, in my opinion, to do it. Even if you think like they just hit I think their ownership said the proverbial, playoff wall. That might be true.
But Joe Brady's the one to put you through?
Joe Brady's then is the difference maker for you.
Did he have was he thinking like he wouldn't have gone for a fourth instead of gone for one? Like legitimately, and this is the part I would say is Joe Brady did not run a very efficient offense in Carolina. People weren't in love with him there. That's why he got ran out of town. And then in Buffalo, they have been a good offense, but not as good. They still have a weapon issue, admittedly. I don't think it's all just scheme or whatever, but they obviously have some issue with it too. This just feels like the most Sean McDermott lost the power. We actually didn't think we were doing everything wrong. We kick ass, we rule. And Sean McDermott and what's their GM's name? Why can't I think of it all of a sudden?
Brandon Beane.
Brandon Beane didn't like each other. And so Brandon Beane went to the ownership and said, fire this guy, he's an idiot, and then kept everything else intact. Because this Gold would imply that Joe Brady's probably going to keep a decent chunk of the staff together. There's not going to be some massive turnover in the ranks.
Brandon Beane!
There'll be some. I'm going to have to think of that the next time I come up short of his name.
You'll never forget.
Brandon Beane!
You'll never forget his name again.
But when you go back through and you look at those different circumstances, I think it's fairly easy to see that this is just a power struggle, and they didn't actually feel like they needed to make changes at all. And if I were the Bills, coming up short as often as I came up short, and then finally firing a head coach who had been one of the most successful in Bills history, probably the second most successful behind Levy, I don't know that I'd just be running him out just to promote the OC who was working for the guy anyway. It just doesn't feel like a real, I don't know. It would be like firing Andy Reid and hiring Matt Nagy. Like, how would that make you? And Andy Reid's more accomplished, I guess, but does that feel would that feel good?
I mean, look, in this case, this is the organization choosing it, but whether the Chiefs are bringing back EB, in the Bills' case, they're promoting their offensive coordinator. I think time and time again we see. Look at the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy. Ownership and GM, they love, and it's coaches in some cases. Man, just the familiar face. It's safe. It's easy. And the Bills did interview a bunch of people. Hell, they interviewed Phillip Rivers, for crying out loud. So I don't want to act like they didn't have a real coaching search. The Bills did. They absolutely had a real search. But they go with Joe Brady, which now means Brian Dable is going to be the OC, I think, at Tennessee, right? Isn't that the expectation now, that Brian Dable is going to go to Tennessee with Robert Saleh?
He just interviewed, probably, but he just interviewed for the Raiders head coaching job,
the second interview, I think.
Yeah, so it kind of depends on which direction, because it's the Cardinals, Browns, and Raiders. I mean, the three worst jobs that are still available. Obviously, depending on how you view the Raiders one and what you think of Fernando Mendoza and others. It just feels like I don't know, man. It just feels like kind of a half step. Doesn't feel like they're really making much progress, I guess, in the we're changing much. And I guess it just depends on, where you think Joe Brady ranks as an offensive mind, and maybe Sean McDermott was
McDermott and
holding
Josh
him
Allen
back a little bit. Buffalo had the third ranked offense this year in points per game, second ranked offense last year in points per game, and the sixth ranked offense. So they've been a top 6 offense each of the 3 years he's been the OC. So I'm not saying the offense isn't working.
I wonder if there was more to Josh Allen and Sean McDermott's relationship. And the reason why I bring that up, Tyler Dunn, who covers the Bills.
He's very sourced.
He was on with Jim Rome yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And he was asked about the relationship between Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. He said, quote, "It's not necessarily toxic. It's not like Josh Allen and Sean McDermott are in the weight room wrestling, getting each other pinned down. It wasn't that bad, but the relationship wasn't that great either. And I've talked to players, coaches, people around this dynamic, and it's something that really hasn't been talked about or written about, but I've heard it's been brewing for a while." So he's speculating and he's suggesting, I should say, that Josh Allen and Sean McDermott, that maybe they had a fragile relationship, and so is Josh Allen and Joe Brady, are they much closer than perhaps McDermott was?
Well, all the rumor candidates were all guys who'd been his OC before. Brian Dable, Joe Brady. I gotta say, this does not make me feel better about the old Josh Allen sitting in meetings. It is hire his OC. It just feels like that's a strong influence, man. That's all. And you're probably not wrong. Maybe his relationship has always been better with the OCs anyway.
The favorite for the job at the very beginning was Brian Dable, which would have been
the same thing.
So they were clearly going to go with it feels like ultimately they were going to go with
somebody Josh liked.
Yeah, which
it's
not fine.
It's not that I want Josh to dislike him. I just don't want that to be the impetus behind the hire. Like, I understand
also,
this idea of, like, I don't want him to hire someone Josh Allen hates, or I wouldn't if I were a fan of the Bills. But at the same time,
It's also one less spot OC-wise if you were thinking based on Andy Reid's comments about Matt Nagy. Well, he's not going to – Joe Brady will be calling plays in Buffalo. So Matt Nagy's not going to be the OC in Buffalo. Brian Daboll is either going to be the head coach of the Raiders or the OC in Tennessee. It just took away another spot as an offensive coordinator position for Matt Nagy, as far as I'm concerned. If they would have hired a defensive-minded coach in Buffalo and let Matt Nagy call plays, then he could be an OC candidate. But Joe Brady's calling plays.
Like you said, it's almost a double dip because it's the OC job in Buffalo, but also in Tennessee, he's not going to get either now. Not that he was going to maybe get that anyways. I think, for Tennessee's sake, I kind of like the premise of Daboll as the OC, not a head coach. Because some coaches are better as coordinators, and then Robert Saleh kind of takes care of the defense. I wonder if that pairing will be good. I don't have a problem with if Josh Allen was like, look, man, I'm in the building with this guy way more than I am Sean McDermott. I feel comfortable with him. I think the system that we run is good. It makes sense. I don't mind if Josh Allen said those sort of things, and it's like, you know what? We're convinced that because Josh said that, we're going to go ahead and hire Joe Brady, and we trust that they bring in the right defensive coordinator and the development is going to be there.
That's really the big key hire now, because truthfully, for a huge chunk of this time, the offense has never been the problem. And hell, for the regular season, the defense hasn't been the problem either. It's come postseason time, the defense has absolutely lost it. But Drew, what I think they lose in McDermott that they're ignoring here is the defense overall can get way worse than the time it's been in Buffalo. I told you yesterday, they've had a top 5 defense entering the playoffs 4 times under Sean McDermott in points per game. Now, they have been way worse than that come playoff time, understandably. But what do you think? A different DC is going to be worse points per game in the regular season, but just gangbusters once the playoffs kick in? Like, they can definitely do worse defensively over the next couple of years. What Joe Brady probably protects them from is getting worse offensively in that same stretch of time, which is important, obviously, in a huge track to where they've been successful. It just feels like they said they needed to make this massive change. They've hit a playoff wall. It was the way they were talking about it, only to just promote the OC.
Well, because they clearly think their offense is all right, and they just need different leadership. But that offense that managed to be top 5 wide receiver-wise is a disaster there in Buffalo. And that goes back to Brandon Beane, and I don't know how he still has his job, but he does.
I wonder, though, at the same time, where if you're looking at decision making and as it pertains to the draft, and them taking Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky last year in the first round, I think that the idea of, hey, I need to pass this through my defensive-minded head coach. I think we should get this guy a wide receiver. Sean McDermott, well, I like this corner, and then ultimately the corner and Brandon Beane agreed that it's there. There's less hurdles to jump, I think, in terms of improving the offense, if you will. Again, we mentioned A.J. Brown, one of those other big names. You take a swing because you got Joe Brady in as the head coach now. I don't know if that changes anything with the dynamics of how you operate the offseason, but you would assume they're going to go after wide receiver in some way, shape, or form?
I mean, they better. They need it worse than the Chiefs do in a lot of ways.
Coming up in 10 minutes, we'll have the general manager of the Kansas City Royals, JJ Picollo. We'll ask him a little bit about this outfield, and are they done shopping in the outfield? And Lane Thomas, of course, one of the outfield additions, just what makes them confident in him as a bounce-back candidate. We'll also get to Carter Jensen and what Rob Manfred had to say, an idea or two about the future of baseball. So that's coming up in 10 minutes or so. If you're just joining us, been a busy first hour already. We will certainly throughout the show today get into the news locally around the stadium front, where the Royals have confirmed they are not seeking a stadium at 119th and Knoll anymore. They are pulling out of that site at this point. And that is the news of the day, certainly in Kansas City. And then we were just discussing the Buffalo Bills have hired Joe Brady to be their head coach, according to Adam Schefter. So kind of a crazy start to the day here. These are the fun shows, man. I love when we get fresh breaking news in the first hour.
I don't know, and I can't promise you which way it's going to go. I'll tell you, internally, the Royals are still claiming they are seeking they still have a couple of sites on the Kansas side that they would strongly consider as stadium options. I think what has stood out, one thing we didn't discuss, even with Bob or with us, it's been 2 years, and how far have we moved? Legitimately, in 2 full years, how much closer are they to a stadium? Let's say the start line is at the 0-yard line of an NFL football field, and the finish line is on the other end zone 100 yards away. I'm sorry. How close? How much closer did you get? What are you at the 20? Not the other 20, not red zone. We're not there. Have you crossed the 50-yard line?
I think actually in an odd way.
How far into this process are you?
It's crazy how long this is. It's crazy how long this is taking. But honestly, today's news actually advanced them in a weird way.
You think they're past the 50 now?
Well, it advanced them because now it's like there's no more of this flirting and leveraging two states. It's Missouri. That's it in the KC. In the KC Metro. It's KC Mo or North Kansas City. Essentially,
is that what you think it's down to?
Where else?
I mean, I don't know.
Where else?
I'm just. All I'm
Kansas
saying
is done. They're not going to Kansas anymore.
Kansas is saying we're out.
And
the Royals
just
are not saying Kansas is out.
They basically did. They said they're not. They've never considered any other Kansas site, and so 119th and null is out. Then they're done.
But they're not. They're never saying they do. I mean, their statement didn't say they never considered.
Like sometimes though, we don't have to literally have them write it down in front of us.
No,
to know.
I know.
Like
all I'm saying is like someone from like somebody is saying that they're still like someone's telling me they're still saying they won't just say Kansas is a no.
Yeah,
I understand that they're negotiating.
They want leverage. Yes,
they're negotiating. I understand that part. I think it is far more likely. I totally agree.
High level people in Kansas publicly have said at the state level have said we are out though.
But but so what's so weird is like earlier I don't know. It was like maybe it was like somebody different in Kansas was saying they weren't today. So like,
well, that individual's been all over the place.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
100% agreed. Look. What we said earlier in the show is really the truth. And if you make me read the tea leaves and I take this information and the stuff that leaked out yesterday about the Port Authority and everything else, it's hard to not feel like it's all leaning Missouri now. It's hard. It's really hard not to feel that way. It's like I think it's fairly obvious that it's leaning that way heavily. But if there's one thing I've learned about the Royals stadium search, and what I would recommend is none of this is 100%. Like whoever every side, Missouri. Like if tomorrow you hear it's 100% going to the Washington Square Park, I hedge your bet, okay? Because I've heard 100% for Missouri sides, Kansas sides, here, there's this. Who the hell knows? I remember for a while it was 100% the East Village side. Then all of a sudden they're the old KC Star building. It's now like a tech central. It's like one of those. It's like a I don't know data center or whatever, right? And so it's like I don't know. Like at this point. I just feel like maybe they're at the 50-yard line, but it doesn't feel like they've moved to an end zone one way or the other. Feel like it's been stuck in no man's land for so long. 2 years ago was the vote. 2 years ago in like a couple of months. Fine. So 22 months ago.
April 2024. April of 2024.
They were like, hey, we'd like to go downtown. Like, okay. And then since then, the most recent update we've gotten is we don't like that site. Like, which one do you like? Is what I really want.
Their best shot appears to be KC Mo, but again, now you have a representative at the state level that's going to introduce legislation that would force a public vote. Now, I have no idea if the likelihood that would pass in the Missouri legislature. I that is something we'll have to see play out. But if that were to happen, then that complicates even what appears to be a current plan. I know the mayor's office pushed back against that, but if that is true, and it would make a lot of sense that they would try to avoid a public vote by using the KC Port Authority, if that becomes unconstitutional, if this legislation passes,
depends if those guys got juice, right?
And I don't know.
That's always really the question. I do like that everyone's doing the football analogies now. They're like Royals Stadium is not even in field goal range.
Someone said they eliminated Kansas, so they're at the 25-yard line with 75 yards to go.
So when the final whistle blows, he didn't let his knee touch the ground.
Yeah, it's like Chiefsaholic lawyer at this point in time.
In fairness, that was when the Chiefs did the stadium announcement. That was the part that drove me crazy. The amount of bad football analogy. I'm like, you guys got to stop.
Well, I mean, the whole lobbyist group, the whole lobbyist group.
The tush push analogy too was
the whole lobbyist group in Kansas for the Chiefs stadium. Remember, it was scoop and score or whatever it was. Dumb. Like that was their.
The tush push analogy was offensive.
Scoop and score.
That was the team who beat them in the Super Bowl. Why the hell are you referencing that play?
Yeah. All right, up next.
But the Chiefs also don't run.
Let's talk a little Royals baseball. We'll keep an eye on the stadium front. I think we are still efforting Jonathan Ketz from Fox 4 maybe to join us later on in the show to discuss Royals Stadium with the Royals saying 119th and Null is out as a stadium site. But JJ Picollo, the general manager of the Royals, we'll talk actual baseball with him. Spring training right around the corner. That's coming up here on Cody and Gold.
You're listening to Cody and Gold, brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com. Tune in for the Fan Club every Friday at 1, right here on 96.5 The Fan.
I'm worth more.
I'm worth more.
I'm worth a lot more.
And I completely agree. That's why I'll pay more for your car at GiveMeTheVin.com. That's the name of our new campaign. I'm worth more. You are worth more, and your car's worth more. And that's why I will pay more. And remember, if I don't beat the price on a CarMax or a Carvana deal, I'll pay you $100 at GiveMeTheVin.com.
Sell us your car. GiveMeTheVin.com. So easy you can do it in your underwear.
And Doug. There's nowhere I wouldn't go to help someone customize and save on car insurance with Liberty Mutual, even if it means playing in a football game.
Boom! 42! You're going down, Doug.
Oh, yeah? Your price on car insurance when you customize and save is going down.
Hey!
Limu? What are you doing on their team? Only pay for what you need at LibertyMutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Running a small business is a daily balancing act. One late shipment, one price hike, one employee issue, and your whole month, maybe the entire year, could be in trouble. That's where LendSeek comes in.
I needed $100,000 fast to keep up with inventory demands. LendSeek had me funded the same day I applied. Between their AI platform finding the fastest deal and a dedicated funding specialist guiding the process, it couldn't have been easier.
Our AI-driven platform matches your business with the right program from over 100 funders, up to $2 million in as fast as 24 hours. Don't wait until it's too late. If you've been in business at least 2 years with more than $500,000 in annual revenue, qualifying is simple. No collateral, no out-of-pocket costs, no hassle. From lines of credit, term loans to revenue-based financing, LendSeek is open for business. Apply in minutes at lendseek.com. That's LENDSEEK.com.
It's about time pros had one partner for the whole job. Why juggle 10 different suppliers when one can do it all? At the Home Depot, you'll save with pricing built for pros. You'll stay on track with job site deliveries, scheduled, next day, or same day. And you'll get every size, every finish, every job lot quantity you need. One partner for the entire job. That's how pros get more done. The Home Depot Pro. It's about time.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband Ryan died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Oh, hello. It's me, the calculator that lives inside of TaxSlayer. I love numbers. Like 100, as in 100%, as in TaxSlayer's 100% accuracy, guaranteed. And 0, as in $0, as in it costs $0 to file and get the refund you deserve with TaxSlayer Simply Free, if you qualify. Simply Free is available to a limited number of taxpayers with age, income, credit, and deduction restrictions. See TaxSlayer.com for eligibility requirements. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Febreze. New Febreze Air Mist has 50% more odor fighters and up to 30% more fragrance than the old formula. So now you can take on 100% more stinky odors, like sweaty gym bags, greasy cooking smells, and the after effects of the dog rolling around in something. Just spray, and new Febreze Air instantly restores just clean freshness. Smell you later, odor. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Hey Royals fans, it's Vern. I'll be broadcasting live from Royals Rally on Saturday, January 31st, starting at 9 a.m. as I sit down with the biggest names in the organization before they head off to spring training. This is your home for Royals baseball. 96.5 The Fan.
96.5 The Fan. KFNC FM and AM. HD1 and HD2 Kansas City. An Odyssey Sports Station.
All right, 11 o'clock hour. Busy show already here on Cody and Gold. Alex Gold, Cody Tapp, Drew Nixon with you. We'll work in the trash of the day here in about 20 minutes or so. We'll certainly get back in to the news on the Royals front in the stadium. 119th and Knoll no longer be considered a site for the next Royals stadium. But let's talk some baseball with the general manager of the Kansas City Royals and vice president, or although here now, president of baseball operations, JJ Picollo.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Congratulations.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And looking forward, it's always an honor to come to work every day for this organization, and just want to serve our community well and put a good team out on the field.
Do you eat a different breakfast? How's it work? What's the shift from president, previously vice president? Do they give you some longer job duties? How does it work?
Nah, pretty much same job. You know, you're head of baseball operations, and you come to work every day, and you appreciate the people that you're surrounded with, and we try to make the best of it and try to win championships. That's what we're here for.
While titles are changing, I hear that the Philadelphia Eagles also can't get anybody to be their OC at this point in time.
Do you want that job too?
That's funny. Yeah, well, that's certainly out of my pay grade, but we'll see what happens there.
Look, we do the Cody and Gold Garage Show. You've donated some items for it every year. Since you won't need any of that stuff that says vice president anymore, they got to reprint all that. Can we have some of the stuff for the garage sale? Anything that says vice president on it is fine.
You're not going to make any money off of this, so I wouldn't worry about it.
We just want to raise as much as we can for the museum,
Okay. Be happy to help.
Great. Look, let's talk about, you've got a big job, obviously, not just because of the title bump and the other stuff. It's a big offseason, it feels like, for the Royals, because you guys were in the playoffs a couple of years ago. You come up just short a year before. What is the kind of tenor of the organization, the motivation of the organization, with what, a week before pitchers and catchers show up in Arizona?
Yeah, no, it's February 9th is the first day pitchers and catchers for those that are participating in WBC. But, tomorrow's our spring training truck. That's always an exciting day around here. You start seeing the boxes outside the offices and, watching that truck getting loaded up kind of gets your juices flowing. But, we're excited about the season. I mean, we learned a lot of things from last year. You can't take things for granted. You're just not going to snap your fingers and wake up. You're in the playoffs. You got to play 162 games to the best of your abilities. We got to maximize the talent on our roster. We got a lot of work to do. We like our team. We think we're going to be competitive, but, we're also very motivated by not making the playoffs last year because we expected to be in the playoffs and we got kicked in the teeth a little bit. So we got to bounce back and show that we can take a punch and go win some ball games this year.
It's no secret, outfield, huge topic of conversation last year in the lack of offensive production. I think even at the end of the season, you guys had your kind of wrap-up press conference and media availability. You guys, of course, acknowledged that the need to improve in the outfield. Do you feel like with what you guys have done, are you done in that area at outfield? Are you guys done looking at potential targets?
Well, we're always going to look to improve the roster. I'll say that over and over and over because you never know when you're going to have the opportunity to improve the roster. There's no limitations right now on, making trades, waiver claims, whatever you want to do. We're not in a dead period of any sort. So we have from really until July 31st, the trade deadline, to continue to try to make this team better. Once you're locked in after the trade deadline, that's what you're going with the rest of the year. But between now and then, we're going to always look to improve our roster. I think what we've done with the addition of Isaac Collins, with the addition of Lane Thomas, is we've raised the floor of our outfield. We have a good idea of what to expect out of those two performers. And when you complement what they do as far as getting on base, playing good defense, we didn't add a 40 home run guy. We got guys that are going to get on base and keep the line moving, which makes our lineup deeper. But you put those two guys in, with a couple young guys that we're hopeful that will have good years. But most importantly, you're putting them in the lineup around the four guys that were Silver Slugger finalists, and we were one of three teams that had four Silver Slugger finalists. And, I think sometimes that gets overlooked because they were all in the infield. It's the bottom line is they were infielders and Salvi is a catcher. So if we can put people around them that can get them up a fifth time or sixth time every night, be on base when the top of the lineup turns around, then we're going to score more runs. And that's ultimately what we think we did with the two guys that we added.
What makes you think Lane Thomas is a good bounce back candidate? Because that's always the question. Yeah. Anytime you sign a player that's coming off a bad year, what makes you think that good years are still there?
Basically because of his injury related. When he was healthy in 24 and 23, we had great interest in acquiring him then. And then in 25, he was just injured. He played, I think, 42 games. So they're really, I don't even know, we will call it a bounce back year, but I don't even know if it really qualifies because he didn't play. So, And in the 40 games that he played, he didn't have the success he's had prior to. But I know when he was with the Nationals, we really admired him, tried to acquire him in that trade deadline when we acquired Hunter Harvey. We were also trying to acquire Lane Thomas at that time. And unfortunately, not only did he not come to the Royals, but he went in our division. He went to Cleveland and did a pretty good job for them to finish 24. So we have every reason to believe, one, we know he's healthy. He had a small procedure done. He had plantar fasciitis, had that corrected quickly. He was active this offseason prior to us signing him. We've seen him hit. We've seen him run. He's healthy. So with him being healthy, we have a lot of reason to believe he'll perform very similar to what he had prior to 25.
You mentioned some of the young players as well that could contribute there in the outfield. Of course, Jack Caglione, a big part of that for you guys if this outfield is to improve. How do you balance what you're hoping to get out of him, but also you don't want to put too much pressure on the player? We talked to you a lot last season about just the timing of when he was called up. And, from the outside, it felt like he was, I know you guys didn't perceive it this way, but felt like he was brought in to kind of save the offense. Well, now it's a full off season. We saw what he was able to do, and now hoping that there's some improvement there. How do you balance the two of needing him, but also not to put pressure on him?
Yeah, very similar to what we were trying to message to him last year. We don't need you to come up here on June 1st and hit 30 home runs between now and the end of the season. We just need you to help make this lineup a functioning lineup. So the messaging will be very similar. I think from a mindset, that's where we have to be very aware, and that's where a lot of our work will take place, and it has taken place in trying to, get him to be as confident as he can in his abilities. I was actually talking to somebody earlier today and said, the funny thing is if he had stayed in the minor leagues and he goes on and continues to do what he's doing, very, very likely he's the number one prospect in baseball and he's the minor league player of the year and everybody's excited. Well, he's the same guy. So he's the same guy. He's got the same abilities. He just had a rough start to what's going to be a really long major league career. And it's our job to make sure that he's confident. And once he starts, seeing some results and some benefit, that's where I think he'll relax and he'll perform. It's not about him hitting 45 home runs this year. It's really about him taking quality at bats and making our lineup better and let other guys who've been in the league longer, who've gone through similar stretches, do their thing and just be part of the team. And if we can do that, I think he's going to have a great year.
It's funny you mentioned specifically 45 home runs because MLB had an article up talking about second-year players and their advancement. And they mentioned Junior Caminero and his 45 home runs he hit last year as maybe a good comp for Cags in year two. From a motivational standpoint, because sometimes confidence is a big part of this, do you go through and show examples of players that start slow but get where they're going, I guess?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And some guys respond well to that and some guys don't. It's really in their psychological profile, which is what's the best way to get to a player and get them to understand. Some guys don't like to be compared, but I think in this case with Cags, when you look at maybe what George Brett did when he first came up, when you look up Mike Schmidt did, and you look up what Chipper Jones did. There were a lot of Hall of Fame players that didn't look like Hall of Famers their first year. It wasn't to the extreme, but even Bobby, first year, second year, he evolved as a player. He got better, and he had the ability. And Cags, while their tools are different, has exceptional ability, a lot like Bobby. And he just was pushed to the big leagues really quickly. We did it at a time that we thought it was going to be the right time for the team. Didn't quite work out the way any of us hoped, but it's still early in his career, and we got a long way to go. And we're looking forward to, getting down there to surprise and really lay our eyes on the work he's done this offseason, which I know he got back to hitting really early and, was very focused on the drill work and the intent and the things he was trying to improve on. That was a big part of his offseason training. So it'll be fun to see it pay off.
Royals General Manager and President of Baseball Ops, JJ Picollo, joining us here on 96.5 The Fan. While we're talking about some younger players, Carter Jensen, I know we're not even at spring training yet, but his role will look similar to Freddie Fermin's last year. Have you guys been able to gauge on what you would like to see from him in terms of that?
Yeah, I think similar as far as the number of games caught, maybe even a tick more, that ideally it's about 80 games that he catches. If everybody stays healthy, obviously Salvi, we need him behind the plate as well. I think it can be a very similar setup. Salvi mentoring another young catcher. I think the difference between Freddie and Carter is Carter is really has been an exceptional professional hitter, and there's more expected out of his offense. There's a more well-rounded player when it comes to defense, offense, base running. Carter can do a lot more. That's not a knock on Freddie. They're just different types of players. But I think, when it's all said and done, we expect Carter to swing the bat, to put himself in the lineup in DH spots where maybe Freddie wasn't that type of player. So I think we can get a little bit more out of that catcher tandem this year when it comes to total plate appearances between Carter and Salvi versus Carter and Freddie. But the defensive work is going to look very similar.
Because, they were looking at about an 80-game split each, weren't they? Like, by the time Freddie got traded, they were almost dead even.
Yeah, they were very much on the track to catch about 80 games apiece.
When you look at some of the other guys, I want to ask you about at least the arbitration update. You've got two guys, Chris Bubich, Vinny Pasquantino. You're still going through that process with. How are those deals coming along? Are you still, as an organization, somewhat optimistic? Maybe you can close those deals before you actually have to sit down for that meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it's without getting into too much detail. I mean, we're on record as a file to go team, which means once that deadline passed on January 8th, unless we sign some sort of extension of some sort, we're going to a hearing. But we've had a lot of communication with the players. We've had a lot of communication with the representation. This is not going to be a tension-filled hearing if we end up going to a hearing. Both players know how much we respect them. They know how much they mean to our team. This is just the business side of the game. It's unfortunate that you try to do your best to separate, but when you look back over, Chris and Vinny in particular, they've been Royals since day one, and we've got great relationships with them. Sometimes our paths take us in a little bit different direction, but in the end, we're on the same team. We want what's best for the team, and we want those guys to perform and be in the right headspace. So, regardless of how it goes, I know they're professional enough to move past it, and we're doing the same on our end.
While we're on the business side, I'm sure you're well aware of the discussion that has been going around baseball specifically with all the recent signings by the Dodgers. And I think you've even said on this show in the past, like, we're not going to use the Dodgers as an excuse or anything like that. But how much, I guess, easier or job change would it be if all of a sudden there was a salary cap in this sport or a salary floor in this sport?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would change, but in the end, I'm not trying to avoid the question. Like, we're in the American League Central, and, our peers are of similar payrolls, maybe a tick more, maybe a tick less, but our competition's the same. So regardless of what any other club does, the task that we have in front of us is the same. If we all were on a level playing field, sure, it'd be interesting. But, we've seen all the numbers that have come out here, especially approaching the Super Bowl, what league offers the most parity in baseball, because of the nature of our game. Just because you have the highest payroll, in our opinion, it's the most difficult sport to get through October because it's not about winning one game. It's about winning series. And it means you got to play well from 5-game set or 7-game set. So I think in some ways it offers different challenges to teams, and that's why you see different teams in the World Series and different teams do well in the playoffs. Where in football, it's a little bit more predictable. I don't know enough about the NBA or the NHL. But I think our sport is built well to handle it regardless of which way we go. I don't know with the floor and a cap or wherever it ends up going. You're still going to see a variety of teams get to the World Series every year because of the nature of our playoffs. And, hopefully I articulated that well enough. It's just hard to get through October. I think back, I don't mean to ramble here, but when I go back to 2014 when we went 8-0 in the playoffs, the reason why we were able to go 8-0 is because we had a rested bullpen all the time. Those off days in between, we were able to bring our big guys back every single night for those 8 games. If you get into an extended series, you may not get through that. You may not have your closer available every night. So it's a really, really tough thing to get through. And I think that's something that we try to focus on as an organization. Let's not worry about what other clubs are doing. Let's worry about what we're doing, do it to the best of our abilities, get to October, and let's get hot in October and hopefully have a parade in early November.
What do you think about the other ideas tossed around? The split season, in-season tournament? You've been around the minors too. You remember how that split season worked. Are you open to any of those things as far as baseball goes?
If there's something that I've really learned, I'm very much a traditionalist at heart. I love the game, the integrity of the game. But with every small tweak, it seems to have made our game better and our fans enjoy it a little bit more. So if we end up going to a split season of some sort, our fans, I think, would maybe at first be adverse to it, but then I think they'll feel the excitement of it when your team has really two opportunities within a year to make the playoffs. So I'm not saying I'm in favor. I'm not saying I'm against. But if baseball makes that decision, it's usually a well-thought-out decision. And most of the decisions that have made when it comes to any sort of changes to the game have had a positive effect on the game. This year, I think the first week of the season, you guys are going to be talking a lot about the challenge system, the balls and strikes. And you're probably going to get a lot of positive fan feedback because Major League Baseball has tested that in the minor leagues. And we know it's ready to go and our fans are going to enjoy it and it makes the quality of the game better. So whatever changes come, I think they're going to be for the betterment of the game.
Thinking of fans, you guys got Royals Rally coming up here on Saturday to kind of really jumpstart this thing before you guys get off to spring training.
Yeah, that's an exciting weekend. I recall back in 21, coming off the pandemic and, kind of early January, we decided to do a Royals Rally at the stadium, and it was very well received by our fans. And it's a great warm-up. It's unfortunate right now, that we're not celebrating the Chiefs playing in a Super Bowl. There's only 2 cities that are doing that right now. But that always adds a little bit of excitement to Royals Rally because the city's fired up. But right now, I think, with Royals Rally, it gives a lot of our fans a chance to get out, sort of just dip their toes into baseball season. And, it's 8 weeks from now, we'll have our home opener. So it's a great way to kick off or actually finish off the off season and head to spring training.
Royals Rally this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4:30. Again, you can go on to the Royals website, royals.com, and purchase tickets for the different sites. JJ Picollo, President of Baseball Operations, General Manager. Appreciate it. Enjoy this weekend, and then enjoy Surprise Arizona.
Okay, guys, thank you. Looking forward to it, and hopefully you guys make your way down somehow.
There we go. That is JJ Picollo with us here on 96.5 The Fan. I know I still
got to get to Arizona, man.
Trust me. We came very close this year. I don't think it's going to happen. We came very close this year. Vern's going to be out there, though, very, very soon, as he always is as well. All right, we're going to take an early break because coming up on the other side, Jonathan Ketz from Fox 4 is going to join us to give us the latest on the Royals Stadium front. If you're just joining us for the first time today, the news, the Royals confirming that they are no longer considering the 119th and Knoll site. That's the Asperia campus. So now what? Jonathan Ketz will tell us a little bit about that next.
This is Wyatt Thompson, and you're listening to Cody and Gold, weekdays 10 to 2, right here on your home for K-State Athletics, 96.5 The Fan.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
I wish I'd gotten treated for my erectile dysfunction sooner. Men, I hear this all the time from our patients. This is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health, and if ED is a problem in your life, resolve to get it treated today and stop having it affect you and the one you love. ED is simply a medical condition, and it's fully treatable. And at Heartland Men's Health, we have treatments that are effective in well over 90% of cases. Which means if you're like most guys, your ED will be a thing of the past. In fact, you could be having great sex within a day or two of your first appointment, and you'll likely find you're performing like you haven't in a long time. It's the new year. Resolve to get your ED treated and change your life. Call us at Heartland Men's Health. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600. That's 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. We have 3 offices, Overland Park, Independence, and North Kansas City.
Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
How do airplanes fly? What's in this box? What does this thing do? Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Learn how to store your gun securely and make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
I'm Piera Palazzolo, VP of Digital Marketing for the American Management Association, a company focused on the management training skills needed to enhance the careers of business professionals. We did our research when it came to the best companies for website development and chose AmericanEagle.com. And we couldn't be happier. AmericanEagle.com worked closely with us to understand the front and back end requirements needed to launch an e-commerce website that could handle the complexities of running thousands of seminars nationwide. Our robust new website and improved SEO saw immediate increases in site traffic and web revenue. If you're in need of managerial effectiveness and success, visit our website at amanet.org. If you're in need of a website that provides an unparalleled consumer experience, I highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Transform your business today. Dial 877-WebNow1 for a free digital consultation with AmericanEagle.com.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the DM Injury Law Studios. Mike's got this.
Car, truck, or motorcycle wreck? Remember, Mike's got this.
816-888-7500. Mike's got this.
All right, back here on Cody and Gold. We will get to the Chiefs Red half hour in about 10 minutes or so, but the news of the day in Kansas City, the Royals confirming, initially I saw from Fox 4, John Holt and Jonathan Ketz, that the Royals are no longer interested in building a stadium at that 119th and Null site, that, of course, the Asperia campus, which has been discussed for well over a year, and I feel like at this point in time, we all know that, along with multiple sites on the Missouri side, perhaps have been in contention for the Royals' next stadium. But now what? We want to welcome in Jonathan Ketz, Fox 4 reporter who's been all over the stadium conversations going back for 4 years, I think, at this point. Jonathan, appreciate you coming on the show. I'm sure you maybe had heard some things heading into today, but what do you make of ultimately the Royals confirming that 119th and Null, that side is out?
I don't know if I'm surprised. I guess what I would say is that, if you would have asked me this question 2 months ago, I would have said that I believed that 119th and Null was in the lead. And I think I've even told CDOT that before. There has been a lot of pushback to the Chiefs deal in Kansas. And I was surprised when the Chiefs were on the LCC agenda December 22nd in Topeka and not the Royals. I thought it was going to be the opposite. And I don't know if there is the appetite amongst the state lawmakers in Topeka or the state of Kansas to do two large star bond districts for two stadiums with the pushback that they've gotten with the Chiefs.
I guess part of it is, like, as you said, I guess, is that really, if you were trying to pinpoint one thing that changed, is it how it was received once they realized how big the district was going to be, how big the price tag was going to be, and then, like you said, the public outcry, I would say, that came as a result of just the number. Is that the single biggest thing that changed, I guess, the Royals part of this?
Well, I would love to know what happened behind the scenes as to why the Royals weren't on the agenda on December 22nd. I think, to be honest with you, besides the size of the star bond district for the Chiefs, if you look at all the pushback at 119th and Null when it came to the Royals building at that northwest corner, it was quite large. Now, besides the HOAs who don't have as much pull, in Western Overland Park and Eastern Leawood, you had T-Mobile threaten to leave the Asperia campus, which is a ginormous supporter of Major League Baseball. And you also had the J, or the entity that owns the ground that the J is on, raise huge concerns about a ballpark being just south of their campus.
We're talking to Jonathan Ketz of Fox 4 here on 96.5 The Fan. Of course, naturally, now that the 119th and Null site is out, everybody wonders, okay, well then, what's the leading site next at this point, and what's next? Where are you at right now with what you've heard on potentially what sites are still in play? Are we back to square one?
To me, it seems like Washington Square Park is gaining traction, and I did an interview with Kevin O'Neill and Andrea Boo. Those are two Kansas City, Missouri City Council members a couple of weeks ago, and it was a soundbite that I didn't use in my package, but they said they wanted the Royals to publicly commit to Washington Square Park, and they seemed very confident. Obviously, you could say, well, of course they're going to seem confident. They want, their side to be the one that looks like it's in the lead. But what's also interesting is today is the deadline for something to be on a ballot in the state of Missouri for the month of April. And we know that if the Royals were going to go to North Kansas City, that would require a vote of the residents of Clay County, because Clay County would be the one that owns the stadium, like Jackson County owns Kaufman and Arrowhead right now. So there's not going to be a meeting, obviously, tonight in the Liberty Square of the Clay County Commissioners putting something on a ballot because they actually do want some public feedback before that would happen. And what Jason Withington, one of the commissioners, said up there. It's not going to happen for April. He's basically done negotiating. Yes, he's only one of 7 commissioners, but I do get the sense there are other commissioners who are tired of dealing with the Royals up there. Can this be done without a vote of the people in Kansas City, Missouri? That is still a very good question. But the incentives that the Royals may be able to get through the Port Authority of Kansas City, Missouri, if the ballpark is going to stay in the city limits, leads me to believe that Washington Square Park is now in the lead.
Yeah, I guess that part, like the timing of we're not doing Asperia and the leak of they're trying to get $500 million from the Port Authority, those to me is like, if I'm reading the tea leaves, that suggests to me that the Royals are announcing this Asperia thing because there's real momentum on the Missouri side. Is it only the Washington Square Park? I guess publicly they're going to say 2 or 3 sites in Kansas, 2 or 3 sites in Missouri, and we're not going to tip our hand. But do you think that they would consider East Village again? Because the mayor had mentioned being open to that site again, maybe a month ago or whatever it was.
That's a really good question, and I think it's Thomas Freestad over at the Business Journal who's probably reported on the East Village. I haven't. Judging by the way that Boo and O'Neill talked to me a couple of weeks ago, the mayor has always made it sound like he wants Washington Square Park over any other site. I believe, to me, it's Washington Square Park. I mean, I think part of the reason why you had the mayor, part of the reason I think there was a location switch, if we want to go back, freaking like 2 years now.
Right. It's crazy.
Because I don't
it's been a long time, yeah.
It's because the city, I don't think, wanted to subsidize the bond buyers of 2 different entertainment districts. I mean, if you remember back to August of 2023, the Royals announced they wanted to build, if they were going to stay in the city limits, they wanted to build at the East Village, which is what we're talking about now. And then all of a sudden, fast forward to the day after the Super Bowl win that the Chiefs had, the Royals announced, no, we're not going to East Village, we're going to the East Crossroads. Something happened, and I think the city got in their ears saying, we don't want to subsidize 2 big entertainment districts with Power and Light and an East Village entertainment district. Let's do it in the East Crossroads. Well, now we're talking about Washington Square Park, and I do think it's kind of funny that, maybe there are more stadium sites than any of us could have imagined could have worked downtown. East Village, East Crossroads, and now I think maybe Washington Square Park could work too.
We got a couple more minutes here with Jonathan Katz of Fox Forward discussing the stadium news today that the Royals will not consider any further the 119th and Knoll Asperia campus site for a stadium. You're more connected in Jefferson City in who, I guess, has pull there, et cetera. I guess, what's your reaction to State Representative Mike Jones yesterday, not only about him saying that Quentin Lucas is working to perhaps use the Port Authority, but also how he intends to introduce legislation in Jeff City that would require a public vote on any local funding? Do you get the sense that there's support behind that? And could that come into play here over the next couple months?
Honestly, well, so that's a good question in a way. Number one, I would say I don't think that bill's going to go anywhere.
Okay.
But here's the thing, and I said this on our WJF Plus app like a half hour ago. So I wasn't here during the, I'm from here, but I wasn't here when the airport got built. What it has been explained to me was that there was a vote of the people for the airport because there was a petition drive that met the threshold of signatures needed, and this is something that Dave Helling has reported on. The threshold was garnered to make it a vote of the people, and if there are Kansas City, Missouri residents who want to say in this, they could circulate petitions of registered voters within their city limits that could trigger the limit to meet that. Therefore, there would have to be a vote of the people for a Royal Stadium, just like there was for the airport.
Interesting, yeah.
So that could happen. And I don't think that signature threshold, from what I've been told, is very high.
I guess just out of obviously I'm asking you to guess here a little bit, knowing that if it had to go to a vote, that there wouldn't be the Chiefs stuff attached to it, it would be a lower tax percentage as a result of that, and they would have now lost the Chiefs in the area. Do you think they can cover a 16-point gap? Is that something that's even viable for the Royals if it went to a public vote in Jackson County?
There's a better chance that a ballot initiative for the Royals at Washington Square Park passes because you're not knocking down businesses for the ballpark. I don't know what the tax percentage. I think, and for me I would have to see what the ballot question is, what the ballot language is, for me to speculate more. But the fact that you're not knocking down businesses to put in a ballpark at Washington Square Park like you would have been for the East Crossroads at the Star Press Pavilion, the old Star Press Pavilion, it has a better chance of passing.
Before we let you go, just go into the Kansas side for a second on the Chiefs front. We all know the stadium announcement back at the end of December. Since then, there's been, as you pointed out, there's been a lot of backlash. Is anything changing with that? I guess, there's been speculation. I think the Chiefs said, the deal would collapse without a public stadium ownership. Any reason to believe that there's a hang up at all with that?
Well, there is reporting on this from a public government aspect is extremely important because you can find out information at the local level right here in our backyard. And at some point, the unified government of Wyandotte County is going to have to vote in less than a month on whether or not they're going to give their increment sales tax revenue back to pay off the development. And as we've just discussed, the Starbond district in Kansas for the Chiefs is so large, it covers all of Wyandotte County. So, to me, that's kind of a tough vote for those 10 commissioners. And something that's also kind of important to point out, Crystal Watson, who said welcome to Kansas the day that the Chiefs announced they were coming to the Sunflower State, she doesn't get to vote unless there's a 5-5 tie. She only breaks a tie. So I can make the argument that every one of those much more low-profile commissioners' opinions on this issue is more important than Crystal's, and they haven't been willing to share it with us yet. So I don't know how they're feeling about this. I would think that they'll probably say, they could say, we'll give back 50% of our increased sales tax revenue. It's not just necessarily a yes or a no, but I am really interested to see what's going to happen at the UG level to see if if they say no, does that mean that the public amount is all of a sudden $1.5 billion or $1.4 billion as opposed to $1.8 billion of this apparently $3 billion stadium in Western Whiteville?
Jonathan Katz, Fox 4, been doing a great job for years now covering the stadium news. I'm sure when you first started, you didn't think that in 2026 you would still be at this point in your coverage of not knowing where the Royals are going, but here we are.
Here we are.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
See you guys.
That's Jonathan Katz from Fox 4, who earlier this morning was the first to report, along with John Holt, that the Royals were not going to consider the 119th and Knoll site any further. But wanted to ask him about the Chiefs, too, because there's been a lot of interesting details.
I think once
frankly,
a
lot of
numbers,
details, lot of details that we still don't actually have the answer to on that end. As far as the Royals thing, then we can pivot in the Chiefs Red Half Hour. what he mentioned with Casey Moe, Cody, and it sounded like he doesn't believe that the legislation that the state representative Mike Jones is introducing that could trigger a public vote, that's the problem for this. But acknowledge that there is a scenario
where the voters still get a
where
force
there
a
could
say.
be a petition if people wanted to get to that, and he didn't know the exact signature level, but not that high. That it could still, there's a lot of different ways that they could still trigger a public vote, even if the mayor wanted to go the path of trying to use the KC Port Authority. Like, that's not a sure thing either.
No. I mean, and this is just the way big projects come with big problems. And this goes back to the, people getting upset about businesses being knocked down in a ballpark village the initial time, and all of the little ways that vote went horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. And so, I don't know, it just doesn't, this is why I said, what yard line are they on earlier? And I don't think they're past the 50. It just feels like we're 2 years into this thing, and it has not moved or progressed in the way in which I was anticipating. I know we'll talk more about it later on the show, and we'll have the longer conversations again because we spent a lot of time on it, as we should. But it's I do think that the Chiefs thing had an impact on the Kansas part of the selection process, because when they rolled the numbers out and the size of the Star Bond District and all that stuff, I think it shocked some people at the amount, the scope, the scale for a non-voted on by the public, even though they have the more than legal right to do it that way. I think it shocked some people in the idea, and we had asked this at the time, how can you afford to fund both of those? So that might very well have been the final death nail at the Asperia site, which most people, Jonathan Katz, Bob, and others would have said, and we all thought was the favorite for probably the last, 2 of the last 4 months at least. Obviously today, officially announcing that they're not going to go to that site, if you missed that. The official statement's up on there. Full conversation's obviously up on our social channels, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all that stuff. And we'll get back to it, of course, in the 1 o'clock hour, the noon hour as well.
Yeah.
Just the same. Let's talk a little bit about the Chiefs. It is the Chiefs Red Half Hour. We'll give you a brief stadium reprieve and get into that kind of stuff and talk about what I saw in the NFC title game specifically anyway. Gold, that game made me thirst very badly for a number one wide receiver that you know's a one. And I think the instant response I got from people when I said I want a guy like JSN in Kansas City was, well, they had that in Tyreek Hill. Yeah, man, I know. I remember. It was awesome. Don't you want that again? And I don't mean want Tyreek Hill again. I mean, I want the new young version, the new model. I want the fresh off the lot version, which means at number 9, I got to say, I am very strongly once again considering wide receiver. I'm starting to lean towards Mekhi Lemon, and you can poke holes in that in a minute. I'm starting to lean that way because I think he might be the perfect fit, perfect type of player for them, other than the fact he's 5'11", which in a weird way might make him an even more perfect fit in Brett Veach or Andy Reid's eyes. Mm-hmm. But I'm starting to lean towards a guy like that. But there is still this temptation that I keep coming back around to. I watched Kenneth Walker, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I kept watching all these star athletes have star moments. And I know that Walker only had 60 yards. But look at the previous 2 games, too. Or the previous game, too. I kind of want that back in Kansas City. They have not been explosive offensively in years. And at number 9, I think I can almost guarantee it.
Look, Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm not to dumb down your argument, but yes, I would like the best wide receiver in football on my team as well. Yes, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
You know what I mean? I just want a good one again.
I got you.
I would take any of the first 15 names you listed in best wide receivers.
Yes, I would like Jackson Smith and Jigba type wide receiver. He's been sensational. Ironically enough, a couple years ago when we were doing our dream draft, as we do, every April heading into it, like our dream pick, even if it's not all that realistic. Jackson Smith and Jigba was my answer 2 years ago or whatever. So, or 3 years ago, I guess at this point in time now. So I'm a big fan. And yes, the type of receiver, my only thing is one, not positional value, because wide receiver is very high on that list, but the Chiefs' individual needs. We all agree they need a wide receiver that can win one-on-one, man coverage, great route runner, all very, very true. Next year's draft has a much deeper playmaker level, I think, to the position. Now, they're not going to be picking 9th. I sure hope not. Things went drastically wrong. If they're picking 9th again in 2027, so you could push back on that. But, man, I think defense is still the number one priority here. I
can't even argue that. I think it probably is their biggest problem.
I think in free agency, they can address running back. pick your favorite, whether it's Breece Hall. Kenneth Walker might have got more complicated because Charbonnet's now with the knee injury, so I don't know if that makes it more likely that he's staying in Seattle. But yes, a Breece Hall, a Kenneth Walker, a Tyler Algier. J.K. Dobbins just had comments in Denver saying that he wants to be a Bronco. He also can't stay healthy, so it would have to be Dobbins and another piece or two. But if you told me it was Breece Hall with Brashard Smith and a third-round draft pick, I'm good to go.
I kind of want him to spend money on running back.
Wide receiver, they're going to address it in some way. I just don't think it has to be at 9. I get why what you see in Lemon and Drew had mentioned this in our group chat. He does
model a lot
that
like
there's similarities.
Stylistically,
yes. I worry still about the size aspect of how the Chiefs have had success, or not a lot of it, drafting that type of wide receiver. Sure. But next year, I mean, they're going to have Rashee Rice in a final year, a contract year. And usually that's a good thing for the production you're about to see.
But what's the long term, you know?
I agree. So Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Royals, maybe Tyquan Thornton, plus either a free agency signing or somebody, like an Alec Pierce is the top level guy. I don't know if the Royals, the Chiefs are in the position to spend that kind of money. That might be something they have to do in the next offseason, Cody, moving forward. I get the intrigue, and yes, they need another. It feels like with Travis Kelce might be his final year if he decides to come back. We've been saying that for 2 or 3 years. They need once again to have, like a lot of teams would say, one of the top 5 to 7 wide receivers in football again. I would also like that. Easier said than done, and I'm not sure.
But it's easier at 9 than it's ever been,
Is Mekhi Lemon, though, a sure? Like, there's no such thing as 100%, but how close is he?
5 cheap-ass years,
How close is he to being he may not turn out to be a star, but his floor is very high. There seems like a bit of risk still, like more than even some of these other wide receivers.
Admittedly, I will trust their own scouting more than mine. If they tell you that Carnell Tate or Jordan, if all 3 are available at 9 and they think Tyson's better, it's cool. Like, I'm not going to sit here on draft day and be like, how dare they not take my guy Mekhi Lemon? Just because in the handful of games I have now seen Mekhi Lemon play, think he's a better fit. I'll trust the Chiefs staff as it relates to that. Yeah. Before we talk about the Travis Kelce into that, because Clark Hunt did talk about him today, can we briefly talk about how funny it was that Diego Pavia measured in short of 5'10" when that man was out here on the college streets trying to claim he was 6 foot tall this whole time, Drew? Your guy, he's not your guy, Diego Pavia.
He's more Binks guy than anybody.
Claimed he was 6 foot tall the entire time he was in college. Gold. Walking around.
Vandy's website did
shoulders held high. Yeah. They measured him at the Senior Bowl. That man came in at 5'9" and 7/8. He was, and the 7/8 is kind of hard. That's tough on him.
Yeah,
I feel like round up on the guy, man. That was unnecessarily cruel. I'll give him that. They could have just said 5'10".
They have to do the exact measurement.
It's not the first time a team has listed. Well, it's not the first time a team, let alone just a normal non-athlete. Like, we see on the websites of these quarterbacks and wide receivers for years, these teams lie and bump up their stat. Heck, I remember even in high school, there would be some coaches that would list like a player like 2 inches taller than what he actually was. This has happened. This has happened forever. But unfortunately for Pavia, the reality sets in when they get the real measurements, and it's like, oh, dude, you're 5'9". Good luck at the next level.
I don't know if anybody was expecting him to necessarily be a quarterback, at least, or from the standpoint of
like a real prospect.
Anything more than like a backup. You know?
Can't be if you're 5'9".
But yeah, I think
a legit 5'10".
I mean, he's
5'10". Be a legitimate.
He's shorter than Johnny Manziel. He's shorter than Drew Brees. I mean, he'd be the shortest quarterback prospect I could think of.
He's going to be a great college quarterback, and that's about it.
If you look at
how tall do they call Drew Brees at the combine?
Certainly not 5'9". 5'9" is the shortest I've ever seen a quarterback.
I haven't measured myself in a very long time. I've stood next to Drew Brees. I don't remember him being
6 foot at the combine.
Yeah, 5'9".
A generous one. I felt like
he's built like a.
Because I'm nowhere near 6 foot. So.
He's built like a solid size running back. Is what Diego at 5'9", 198. You're a running back. Like that is ideal running back size. Maybe a little short still, but. You're more of like a bruiser type of running back at 5'9", 198. I don't know if that's a role that he wants to play in the NFL, but I think it's intriguing.
I'll just tell you right now, if somebody's offering you a different position to play and you're 5'10" at quarterback, you should probably just like Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow still could have been a good H-back.
Oh, yeah, Tim Tebow could have been a good tight end.
Or tight end. But his refusal to use his athleticism for anything else other than completing 2 passes in a game he actually beat the Chiefs in. But miserable.
And winning a playoff game.
He is one of, we make fun of Sanders, Shadur. Tim Tebow might be the worst NFL quarterback I've seen start multiple games for a team. Fundamentally awful. Could not complete a pass. And I just go back to his college years. Yeah, he ran. He's like Tim Tebow's the reason why people are afraid to draft guys like Lamar Jackson. Like, they can't throw, they can only run. I'm like, no, Lamar can throw. Are you nuts? The guy who can't throw was Tebow. Terrible. Like, he gave running quarterbacks a bad name for like a decade. Like, well, he can't throw and run because I watched that guy run and he sure as hell can't
I do
throw.
really think that, I'll be honest too, if not that it's more impressive, but at 5'9" to play quarterback in the Southeastern Conference, if he would have won the Heisman Trophy, that's extremely impressive just from the standpoint of being able to play that position.
College player. All-time great college player.
Yeah, I don't. All-time great? I don't know.
Tim Tebow?
Yeah. No. I'm talking about Diego Pavia.
Oh, okay. Well, he just mentioned Tebow, so I was sorry.
If Diego Pavia would have won the Heisman Trophy, I think
yeah.
I think we're talking about most impressive feats from a college athlete.
Pavia is just a very nice college player. He's not going down in history. I'm like
obviously,
15
Tim
years
Tebow's one
from
of the 5 best players of all time, any position.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years from now, we're not going to remember Diego Pavia. Sorry, that's just the reality. Unless you're a Vandy fan, you're not. Like, maybe you, Will Drew, like you're a diehard, but like you go.
It'd be like, oh, do you kind of remember that guy, Diego Pavia? I'd be like, yeah, kind of.
You'll remember him more for what he said off the scene, off the field, like claiming they run Tennessee, which they technically did, and they beat Tennessee. But like him claiming a lot of things and talking a little bit off the field. You're going to remember him a little bit more for the off the field stuff, I would say.
By the way, Kyler Murray,
he's 5'10". That texter, he's not 5'7".
But also, here's the difference.
He's not 5'7".
He's not 5'7". He does look it.
His official combine.
Comps though, that's a.
Sure, but someone on the text line said Kyler Murray's 5'7". At the combine, I think he was 5'10". He's 5'10".
I also think we're lying to ourselves a little bit if we want to comp the athleticism of Kyler Murray and Diego Pavia. There is a sizable gap in athleticism between those two human beings. Kyler is an elite level athlete. You can say all you want. You can say everything you want to say about his quarterback play. He's an elite level athlete, like one of the 20 best in the NFL, maybe when he came in.
I think there's less of a gap. There's less of a gap from an athletic standpoint compared to the passing. Like Kyler Murray is a significantly better thrower of the football than Diego Pavia ever was in college.
Anyway, let's talk about Travis Kelce because Clark Hunt was on Good Morning Football. And I don't need to play the clip. It was pretty brief. Clark Hunt was saying, I hope Travis comes back, and I certainly think he can still play. And the reason why I mentioned that clip and why it's short is all signs point to, and this is important for his possible return, every single sign currently points to that if Travis Kelce wants to come back, the Chiefs are more than willing to make it work. Clark Hunt will sign the check. Andy Reid will make space on the roster. They will figure out a way to work outside of it. That was at least a potential hurdle because all the time, Gold, we know the times people want to come back and the team's like, yeah, man, we don't want you back as much as you want to be back. It seems like they might want him back more than he wants to come back. They're more willing at this moment to commit to Travis Kelce. I think that's of interest that Clark Hunt's at least willing to mention that.
Yeah, it's telling. You combine it with Travis Kelce's comments in the last week or so and mentioning EB and can't wait to see him in the building and all that kind of stuff. I think we all believe at this point he is certainly trending toward coming back. I told you, though, it's the financial end. Like, it's not my money, but there is a salary cap, and it can be finagled, sure. I still think there's a number in which makes it doable versus not. Like, and realistically, he's not coming back 1 year for 5, nor should he. But I also am not doing 1 for 17 or 1 for 16. I think that is a problem. If we agree, like,
there's got to be a drop
because on one
number.
hand, like,
I agree.
You always cite it, and it's fine. Like, the numbers are the numbers, but you would agree. Like, the numbers, the targets it took to get the numbers he had this year, that's a problem if he gets those targets again next year. I disagree with
that.
Like,
I didn't want him to get that many targets this year.
Yeah, and
I
so
wanted somebody else to get him. But
and this year, Xavier Worthy was hurt all year, and Rashee Rice had the 6-game suspension. So understandably so. I'm just saying, if he comes back, one, it can't be $16 million. And what was his targets? 108 targets? What was the final number? What do you end up with?
108 targets, but that's down, actually.
Still,
134, 152, 121, and 133.
It needs to be in the 80s next year.
And it probably would have been more like 120 for being honest, had Travis started Patrick started the last 3 games.
It needs to be in the 80s next year. They want to do a 1 year, $11 million with incentives to bump it up to $16 million. And the offense doesn't run through him, and he's getting 80 targets. I think he can be very effective there.
80 targets, 800 yards. I mean, and I think he can get that, or like 80 targets, 750 yards. But that, like, here's the thing. Do you think that's going to happen if they don't add another wide receiver? Can it be? Can they turn it on Rice? Because, and look, targets per game, I would guess that Rashee Rice led in that category when they were playing together at the same time. If you look at the numbers, my guess is that Rashee Rice was probably pretty close to that because they threw to him a lot too. It's not like the other ones. My problem is that I want the ball to go to Xavier Worthy. I want the ball to go to Tyquan Thornton. I want the ball to go to Jalen Royals. I want it to go more to these ancillary pieces, but they're not better than Travis Kelce. And I think that's why still, Gold, even if you want the targets to be less, which is fair, and the money to be less, which is, again, is fair, I don't know that there's a world in which Travis Kelce is not the second most targeted player on this team if he's on this team. Just knowing how their offense operates, knowing the type of team that they have, I'm not sure that there's like a mathematical equation that makes it to be that. Not the number one targeted guy, fine. Or more importantly, maybe not the number one targeted guy by a mile. Because that's what probably stands out more than anything. It's not that he was the number one targeted guy, because it was him and Rashee Rice were a target apart. You know, like I'm probably not going to throw a huge fit this year. But when we start talking about the targets on this team, Rashee Rice was second at 78. He played half as many games. So Rashee Rice would have crushed him in targets per game. He would have been the number one leading wide receiver on this team. The question is, can I close the gap from 108 to Hollywood Brown 74 or Worthy 73? And unfortunately, like the productivity they got out of Worthy based on those targets was just worse. They got to figure out a way to just get that up. His quality per target's got to go up. That's all. I do think it seems like everybody will just welcome Travis back with open arms. Team, ownership.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
No one's going to be afraid to do that because the truth is, and this is why I want Travis back, they have way too much to fix before I also need to fix tight end. They got to fix running back, some offensive line depth, defensive line across the board, safety, corner. Like, there's a lot to fix. If you could take that out, I think then we're probably getting somewhere. You know, like take tight end, take one thing off of the list for a year. That's all. It's a small request, I guess. Someone says don't hate Kelce because he's the only one who can get open.
Yeah, your offense just can't run through him and going forward. Sorry. That's all. That's not hating on Travis Kelce. That's just like, if you guys, like, as much as we've talked about the offense needing to evolve and get better and all that, yeah. You can't just, this is like the whole run it back thing. It's ridiculous. Like, it cannot just be that again.
When do you think we'll know?
Let's have Tyreek Hill back. Let's run the offense through Travis Kelce. Let's have Eric Bieniemy as the OC. I mean, like, this is in 2022.
Yeah, like we turn the Wayback Machine? No thanks. Yeah, I'm with you, Gold. Like, again, it all comes with a stipulation, but I still think Travis Kelce, they're better with him than without him at the moment. There is a threshold for a player with that, and at this moment, they have not crossed that threshold for him.
Cody, to answer your question,
right price.
I think we know by the time we get to the combine.
For what now?
I said, when do you think we'll know?
In a month or less. Or
under 30 days?
I think we know by the middle of February, yeah.
Okay, so if I said the over-under of 20 and a half days.
How about by President's Day? There you go.
Okay.
Mark it down.
Mark it down. That's your official.
Mark it down.
That's your official guess.
By
President's Day.
By President's Day.
We'll know if they're actually going to look at Kenyon Sadiq in the first round or not, based by the time we get to the combine.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, he's got to let them know because they got to know if they're pursuing it in free.
And if Kelsey's coming back, even more reason not to draft a tight end at 9 overall. Even more. I understand.
Then it's just
like,
reckless.
What do you like at that point? I understand. You're like, well, it's for the future.
No, I need.
He isn't
future.
the guy to take at 9, in my opinion, either.
Like, it needs to be future and it needs to be both. Future
if
and
Brock Bowers there, we can still have a conversation, even though you got Travis Kelce back. But it's not. But Kenyon Sadiq is not Warren Loveland. He might be Lovelandish, but
I don't know.
He isn't on the level of those guys, I don't think, in comparison to recent years.
They're not talking about him as sure a thing as those guys were being talked about. And Loveland didn't turn it on really to come like late season playoff time when he really amped it up.
All right, coming up next, we'll get to what's trending. We'll certainly fill you in on the Royals news. The Bills have a brand new head coach. I want to get into that. We'll also dive back into the Royals moving on from the 119th and null site. That's coming up right here on Cody and Gold.
Watch Cody and Gold on YouTube by subscribing to the 96.5 YouTube channel. Cody and Gold is brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to place your bets before the NFL season closes its tab. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel's making sure you're in on it. If you're a new customer, you bet $5, you get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, make it count, because after the Super Bowl, well, the season is over and football is officially done. Last call for football on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com/local to get started. That's FanDuel.com/local. FanDuel Sportsbooks, the official sportsbook of 96.5 The Fan. 21 and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First, online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com.
DQ presents The Spicy Menu. For a limited time, try the new Flamethrower Chicken Strip Basket for $6.99 with spicy bold strips that heat you up. Served with a side of famous DQ soft serve as a dip to cool you down. That's right, dip those spicy chicken strips right into soft serve, plus fries and toast, all for just $6.99. And add a new pineapple lemonade sparkler or cooler made with tahini. It's the limited time only Spicy Menu. Get it delivered in the DQ app. Happy tastes good. Participation may vary.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-284-1238. 800-284-1238. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-284-1238.
Chick-fil-A's new frosted sodas and floats. It's a 10 out of 10. Hey, this is Lizzie, a team member at my local Chick-fil-A, and a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich and new frosted sodas and floats is how well they go together. You will love having your favorite soda blended with our creamy ice stream to make a new frosted soda or float. With the mix of the ice stream and soda fizz, it's so delicious, I call it Fizzalicious.
Order a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich and a new frosted soda and float at your local Chick-fil-A restaurant. Real team member paid for their testimonial.
Spreadsheets, clunky software, 100 different logins just to run your business? Ah.
There's a better way. Odoo. One simple, connected platform that handles sales, inventory, accounting, and more. So you can focus on growing, not juggling. Make the switch today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
The new era of UFC on Paramount Plus continues with UFC 325 live from Australia. Catch featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski in a rematch of his epic title fight against Diego Lopez, and the always dangerous Dan Hooker throws down with dynamic finisher Benoit Saint Denis in a high-action lightweight showdown. UFC fans, pay-per-view just got knocked out. Catch UFC 325 on Saturday, January 31st, only on Paramount Plus. Stream every fight live with one subscription. Visit ParamountPlus.com/UFC to get started.
Did you hear? Allstate car insurance now costs even less. So when you bundle with home, you can save even more. Check Allstate first to bundle and save with a new lower auto rate. You're in good hands with Allstate. Not available in every state. Only applicable for new auto insurance business. Rates will vary by several factors, including how you purchase the policy. Potential savings may vary. Allstate North American Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
The Chiefs offseason show with Bob, Dusty, Cody, Alex, and CDOT is Tuesday, February 10th, starting at 9 a.m. right here on your home for Chiefs football. 96.5 The Fan, KFNC, FM and AM, HD1 and HD2, Kansas City, in Odyssey Sports Station. What's trending?
Cheddar, mozzarella, Havarti.
Number one on what's trending, the Royals confirming this morning that they are no longer considering the Aspiria campus site for their stadium. That, of course, the 119th and Null site there in Overland Park. Here's some of what they had to say in a statement today. Quote, as stated when the Aspiria mortgage was acquired, the investment was made to maintain the site as an option for a new Kansas City Royals stadium. After significant evaluation, we do not believe this site meets our criteria for a stadium. We continue to evaluate opportunities throughout the Kansas City metropolitan area to create a world-class ballpark district. As always, we hear and appreciate the input of our fans throughout the region. We remain hard at work toward the best solution for our teams, fans, partners, and community. We have been spending all show a long time about this. We certainly will get back into that coming up at 12:30 today as well. So that was, again, as Jonathan Ketz said, I don't know if it's like shocking, but certainly a huge development in the stadium saga.
I agree. I mean, it doesn't mean they're closer to announcing a stadium site.
Right.
But that was, I think by all accounts, the leader in the clubhouse seemingly for a potential Royal Stadium. And now they're saying that site doesn't work for us anymore. Next up on What's Trending, speaking of stadiums, the Chiefs have announced they're down to 2 possible firms for their new stadium design. Populous and Manica, both local to Kansas City, will be the 2 dueling it out for the possibility of stadium designs. You can see they posted it up on their website, the different projects both of them have done. It's big-time sports stadium sites. Not going to be surprising. Like Manica's done Nissan and Allegiant. Populous has done other major stadium projects. It's not surprising that these would be the 2. When you've got world-class sports architecture firms in your city, I would think you'd use one of the world-class sports architecture firms in your city in order to design your stadium. Manica, by the way, was the one who would put out that random generic rendering.
And it's the one everybody's run with in their articles naturally.
I hope it looks a little different than that one, but it is the one that the most people have run with, yes.
I'm excited to see what they come up with. And yeah, we are lucky to have the best in the world right here in Kansas City when it comes to designing stadiums. All right, elsewhere, where we'll get into this after What's Trending too, but the Buffalo Bills, according to Adam Schefter, have a brand new head coach. They're promoting their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. They had interviewed candidates like Brian Daboll, for example, Phillip Rivers, and others, Nate Shieldhouse, but they promote Joe Brady. Also, that means Brian Daboll is going to the Tennessee Titans because he was a candidate for the Bills head coaching job. So Robert Saleh, head coach in Tennessee, Brian Daboll, OC in Tennessee, Joe Brady, head coach in Buffalo.
Do you ask Sean McDermott for advice? You just took the man's job. You'd be like, hey man, any advice for the job? You ask him to be your DC?
I don't know what their relationship is.
Switch roles.
Oh well, that's not happening. But I don't know what their relationship is. We'll get into the Sean McDermott, Joe Brady stuff.
Stabbed him in the back. Can't be that good now.
I mean, I didn't stab him in the back.
We'll talk about it in a minute. Next up on, I'm just poking the bear a little bit. Next up on What's Trending, Darian Mensah and Duke have reached a private settlement. He's now free to go to another school. Weird. Once again, the non-compete did not hold up in some capacity. Probably returned some of the money. Miami is the expectation. Although Miami's like, we've had no conversations with Mensah because that's not technically allowed. Everyone knows he's going to Miami. So just assume Mensah will be a hurricane here in the next 2 days.
Next on What's Trending, college hoops tonight. The Missouri Tigers looking for a big win against top 25 Alabama. That one gets going at 7. Kansas State, right here on 96.5 The Fan. They are taking on West Virginia. Wildcats trying to get their second win in Big 12 play, coming off that loss to Kansas.
Lastly on What's Trending, Matt Stafford says in an interview yesterday he will, quote, take some time with his decision this offseason, saying it'll be a difficult one whether or not he will determine, retirement, obviously, or to return to the Rams for another season. He's in a very similar, feels very Travis Kelce. I could see him just walking away, but I don't know. Maybe he wants one more bite at the apple. Had he won the Super Bowl, I think you and I both know, his ass would have walked. Travis would have too. Had they won the Super Bowl and he'd won 3 in a row, I don't think he's achieved this year.
I agree with that. That is What's Trending here on Cody and Gold. We'll get back into the stadium news at 12:30, and we'll also probably play some of our conversation with Jonathan Ketz back in the 1 o'clock hour with the Royals. Moving on from the 119th and Null site, and so naturally, Missouri, of course, appears to be where the Royals are destined to build a stadium. Where, we don't know exactly. We'll get into all that coming up in a half hour. But the Buffalo Bills have a brand new head coach, one of the biggest rivals during the Chiefs dynasty, Buffalo, moving on from McDermott. We knew that a week or so ago. Now we know it's Joe Brady. And clearly, Josh Allen, Joe Brady have a good relationship. Their offense, while they didn't have the best wide receiver room, they still, with Josh Allen, made it a top 5 offense. What I don't get is going back to Pagula, the owner of the Bills, going back to Brandon Beane, the GM.
That weirdo press conference.
And that press conference last week, it sure seemed like they were throwing the coaching staff under the bus for why they were where they were at. They also, remember, said it was the coaching staff that wanted Keon Coleman, not the general manager, not the ownership group. And then we're kind of led to believe that it was the coaching staff that hit a proverbial wall with Sean McDermott. And yet then they just promoted someone who was on that same coaching staff. Like, that's the part that I can't get over.
This is the part that makes no sense. How can you say we want all these change. We need all this change. Like we hit a wall, and then just be like, Joe Brady, that's our guy. You're like, really? That doesn't feel like you're really doing much different. I imagine Joe Brady will keep a decent chunk of his staff intact. This to me is just, I think this all points to Josh Allen having a pretty big say. And him and McDermott weren't super close. He was able to, along with Brandon Beane, convince a McDermott. I don't think Josh Allen went in there and said, get rid of McDermott. But was more than fine with most things being the same, but was tired of working with McDermott. And this kind of points to me that Josh Allen had a pretty big say in Joe Brady coming back as the new head coach. The reason why I called him, stabbed him in the back is, what do you mean? He made you his OC, gave you a nice job, and now you take his job? Ice cold, man. That's ice cold. That's not.
Let me get this straight. You're suggesting. You're suggesting that Joe Brady should have said, "Nope, don't give me my first ever NFL head coaching job because I was friends with Sean McDermott."
Are you saying he had no choice? I bet that's what Brutus said when he put the knife in Caesar's back too.
Oh my goodness!
No choice.
Cody
wants. Well, what could I do?
Yes,
says Judas. There was no option.
I didn't think we were getting Shakespeare and stuff on the show today. Joe Brady's going to turn down coaching Josh Allen for his first head coaching gig because of Sean McDermott. Hell no. Absolutely not.
It's a pretty, I'll be honest, similar to the way we talked to BEB one. If I'm in Buffalo, and it's like a Kansas City fan, who cares? And this is why we talk about Buffalo. They have been the number one competition in the AFC for the last 7 years for the Chiefs and Mahomes. Look, maybe that's getting ready to shift to the Broncos or the Chargers or, I don't know, any other team, the Ravens, or any other team you think it is, or the Bengals are coming back around, whatever. It has been the Bills. They're the number one competition for the Chiefs. And does this move make me more fearful of the Bills than I was 2 weeks ago? Nope. It certainly doesn't. It might make me less. It's at best neutral. If I'm the Chiefs and I'm looking at this and be like, okay, fine. So you're still going to have a functional offense. Unless they're getting ready to find their Steve Spagnuolo for Joe Brady, how are they going to improve? They have been operating with a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense for years, and they haven't been able to cash the ticket. Joe Brady's the ultimate motivator. That's the difference. Sean McDermott was just stopping him from giving the speech to change it all. He would have made 5 or 6 different decisions that Sean McDermott didn't. He would have not played quarters or whatever the hell they played on the 13-second game. He's not a defensive coach. So, like, what is the difference between the two? Because at best you can sell this, I think, if you're the ownership, is this is the same. This would be the not direct equivalent because Andy Reid's won Super Bowls, in fairness, but this would be them firing Andy Reid because they were tired of it and hiring Eric Bieniemy or Matt Nagy. Pass, I guess.
Right.
That would be pretty uninspired, would it not?
2 years ago or 3 years ago when Matt Nagy was first hired, everybody just kind of assumed that he would one day be the coach in waiting. That was like the assumption that if it went well. And that's why yesterday's news of this, he decided before the season to leave and, we're letting him try to go find his own opportunity and all that. That was never the plan 2 years ago. Like that, if all went well, everybody thought that Matt Nagy would one day be the leading candidate to replace Andy Reid. That, of course, is not ever happening. But that was the thought. And things changed. I get it. Clearly, things did.
Yeah, and I guess, that's always the stuff that we kind of get into. And so and look, that's always the mixed bag of it. It just feels like they said, we've hit a wall, we're at a stalemate, we can't move as a franchise, and then they just promoted Joe Brady. What did you really change? It doesn't feel like you changed anything other than made Josh Allen more comfortable. He's plenty comfortable before. I just still wonder, and this goes back to, and you obviously worried about it less than I did. Not that I'm like, oh, this is the end-all, be-all. It's still like a balance between the two. I want to put, if I'm a general manager, I want to put some real guardrails in what say the quarterback has. They don't get no say. That's important. They don't get no say. That's crazy. They're the star quarterback for this team. I need some of their influence in what we're doing. But there's a cutoff point before too much say, in my opinion. And that relies to like ownership to the GM, quarterback to the GM. Like there's still got to be like, I still got to be able to do my job in some capacity. I'm not saying Beane didn't like Joe Brady, but it also makes it seem like this entire time his plan was, I got to get McDermott out. My real guy's Joe Brady. Behind the scenes, that's the guy I like working with. I've been trying to figure out a way to get McDermott's ass out this entire time. I'm trying to get to Brady, and now this gives me the chance.
I mean, there was reporting from Tyler Dunn, who was on the Jim Rome show yesterday, that said not that it was a completely fractured relationship, but he called it a fragile relationship between Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. So maybe there's more there than we thought even between them as well. And we also clearly know by now that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott had differing opinions on a lot of things, and ownership chose the GM and thought the coach was the problem, not the GM. That was their decision. We'll find out if it's right or wrong. As somebody in Kansas City, knowing the Bills have been the Chiefs' biggest rival, I think them promoting Joe Brady, at this point, like I don't know if all that much is going to really change, versus if they would have gone out, there would have been more risk with maybe a Nate Shieldhouse or somebody, but you would have worried perhaps that they found the next great Sean McVay or something. Well, Joe Brady, everybody does. Joe Brady, people view him very highly of him, I should say. Going
After
back
he left Carolina, they did. They didn't.
When he left LSU, though, when he left LSU at that time,
that's true. Because in Carolina, it didn't go great because he had a bad quarterback. Yes, Josh Allen. Do I think their offense is going to be bad in Buffalo? No, I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, Josh Allen will probably be pretty good.
Yeah, not to get back in like the say of the quarterback thing. Like obviously, we know Patrick Mahomes clearly had some say in EB coming back. Josh Allen probably had say. He sat on the interviews in having Joe Brady get promoted. I think there's also just a different level of quarterback. Like what yours, I don't want Bryce Young determining the future of my coaching staff. But Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady when he was playing, like those guys, Matt Stafford, those guys have earned the right to have some say. It doesn't mean it's 100%. Well, he doesn't like this guy, so there's zero chance we're doing that. But those guys absolutely deserve say. I mean, I would argue. I mean, whether take sports out of it. If you're someone that is, whether you're you're not the CEO of the company, not the owner of the company, but if you've got someone that's been a longtime employee that has a track record of success, whether it be sales or whatever, like you might value their input more than the guy that just joined you a year ago. Doesn't mean that you're going to only hire who he thinks you should hire, but like that, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's the thing we'll never know. That's always the problem. Like, did Josh Allen just say, "Give me Joe Brady. I want Joe Brady"? Because Brandon Beane wouldn't even fess up to Keon Coleman being his pick.
Yeah,
he tried to put it all on the coaching staff, even though he did. I don't know, no short of it seems like a 30-minute standalone documentary-style interview in which he did nothing but talk about how he wanted to draft Keon Coleman, based on the number of clips that came out and everything else that was in between it. So, like, it is. I'm not disagreeing with you, Gold, that input is important and all that other stuff. It's the part that we can't know. And look, I think that when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, people also sometimes have a really difficult time understanding the difference between saying something because it looks good in a headline and telling the truth. And so, for instance, Andy Reid, in the middle of trying to get Eric Bieniemy a head coaching job the first time he was here, said that Eric Bieniemy was calling some of the plays in the game. Okay, just to be clear, I've covered this a lot. I've talked to a lot of people in the coaching staff. At no point was Eric Bieniemy ever regularly calling the plays for Kansas City. Did he make a play call suggestion that the team used occasionally? Sure.
No, jet, chip, wasp.
Sure.
I mean, right there. We all have the mic'd up segment of how that conversation went.
That's how every staff works. Andy Reid is the play caller, has always been the play caller. He has never conceded play calling. But when Andy Reid was asked about this in a post-game press conference situation, he got asked straight up, hey, what play calls did Doug Peterson call? What play calls did Eric Bieniemy call? Which ones did you do not? And his general story has been, oh, I called all the bad ones. He called all the good ones. Not true.
Yeah.
Not true. Because people want to be like, hey, they want to say that Josh Allen can't have say because Patrick Mahomes chose Clyde Edwards-Helaire. No, he didn't.
That was a fun social media clip that got traction. Remember, like Pat chose you. They did not literally say, Patrick, we're letting you decide which running back do you want.
Yes.
People have taken it way too far.
We gotta read the area around here. Patrick Mahomes did not personally dial up the NFL and fill out the form and say, hey, listen here. I'm not even going to sign a contract extension here. You don't pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's the only guy. They didn't. Hell, I'll go even further. They didn't send him tape and say, hey, here's the 15 players that we're considering taking.
I don't know about
32.
that. I actually don't know about that.
Choose
I
the
actually
one.
I actually don't know about that.
I don't think I went that far.
I do think they do send him a clip or two of somebody they're considering. I actually do think that happens.
But it's just like sometimes we like conflate it to mean something it's not. And so like it's fine. And he should have or whatever. And this will be the interesting thing going forward. Clearly, if Patrick Mahomes did not get along with Eric Bieniemy, he probably wouldn't be back. Right? So like Mahomes does have a little influence on this. But also Andy Reid had a massive influence on this because that's who he wanted back to. And so attaching a percentage to it is very tough. Similar as it is to this, the Joe Brady one feels like I can attach a higher percentage to it than even EB because they fired the head coach, like that guy was gone and still ended up with the OC. So it's just interesting.
With Joe Brady now being the head coach for Buffalo, what are the chances though that we know where Buffalo's been, 8 out of 9 years in the playoffs. You've got a guy that's won MVP and Josh Allen. We've now found out there was a little more turmoil than maybe we recognize with their front office and everything. That's fine. We'll see how that plays out too. But they were a 12-win team this year. The Bills, the year before, were a 13-win team. The year before that, they were an 11-win team. We can keep going. 2022, they were a 13-win team. On and on and on. Are the Bills with Joe Brady, in your opinion, do you think we'll be sitting here? And look, nobody would have guessed the Chiefs would have been a 6-win team. So you can have a one season that's a failure. You just hope it's not year one if you're Buffalo under Joe Brady, because that'll change how everybody feels about him right away.
Yeah.
But are they going to just still, you think they'll still just be that 12, 13-win team every year?
Most teams do not maintain that level. If I'm a betting man, Gold, no. They'll fall further back. Because just all the odds would suggest that if I give you the last 5 years of win total and success out of Sean McDermott and these next 5 years, Joe Brady will have less wins. But you know what the only thing they care about is, does Joe Brady get them one ring? They don't care if the 5 years on aggregate go better. They're just trying to get one. One, dude. They got 0 in their entire franchise. That's the only number they'll count about. They won't care about where they rank on offense, where they rank on defense, how many wins they get. Joe Brady's got, I think, 4 years to get a ring. And if he doesn't get it, he's getting fired too, and they're going to find somebody else to try to get him a ring.
The divisions.
Matter of fact, I think he'll be fired if he does not get a ring in the next 4
The divisions the Bills play next year too, obviously outside of their own. The NFC North, the AFC West, they have Baltimore, Houston, and LA as well on the schedule. LA Rams.
Not quite as difficult as the Chiefs, but it's still
But you
tough.
know how that goes. I mean, nobody would have thought the Seattle Seahawks preseason was going to turn out to be maybe the best team in football. So there's always surprise teams. I mean, the Jags were way better than a lot of people thought they were going to be.
And some of them will be surprisingly way worse.
The Chiefs won 6 games. I'm sure those teams, when they saw their schedule in December playing Kansas City, they were thinking, oh, gosh.
Yeah,
and it turned out to be pretty easy for them.
And is the Rams starting quarterback Matt Stafford or is it Ty Simpson? Sure. Changes the calculus quite a bit on the fear over it. Can Darnold repeat it again? Now it's hard to imagine he can't based on the fact that for 2 straight years he's been on 2 of the best teams in the league and they got a lot of talent. But, there's always those questions that come with teams. Meanwhile, I think what is happening in American professional sports is an arms race. We were talking before the show, this is how I would comp it. And then we can explain exactly what's happening in the NBA. I think what is happening in American professional sports is the same as the space race in the 60s. And it's all a race to get to Europe. The NFL, the NBA, they all want a European division. And they're all trying to figure out the fastest path to get there. Now we got the NBA and their next kick around potential and whether or not they think they can get there after we just talked about how the NFL keeps putting games there.
Additional revenue, international markets. You're always looking for new revenue if you're in any of these leagues. And Mark Tatum, he's the deputy commissioner of the NBA. He was on with Sportico the other day, and he was talking about their idea is to create a league with the biggest countries having permanent franchises, the biggest countries in Europe, that is. And so he's brought up their idea is a 12 to 16 team league that would have teams in places like Paris or Berlin, et cetera. And that would be NBA, what sounds like NFL Europe, but NBA Europe. We all know there was once an NFL Europe. It eventually failed, but there was NFL Europe. Now we know they're playing games internationally. The NBA is basically trying to create NBA Europe. And it's interesting. Personally, and I don't follow the NBA as closely as I do the NFL or Major League Baseball, but we know there's international players that get drafted and play in the NBA all the time, right? Some of the biggest stars in the league right now are from international markets or other countries, I should say.
They're great at getting players from over there, sure.
What would happen if you have this league, NBA Europe, you're having 2 different drafts, right? Or is it how are you making it not just a developmental league at the same time?
How is it not the G League, but in Europe?
Yeah, how are you not just taking away talent? If you have a player like Jokic, you're not going to draft him and have him play in NBA Europe. No, you're going to want him in the NBA in the United States.
The only way
how would this work?
They're trying to basically overtake the
leagues over there already.
Yeah, they're already trying to take EuroLeague, which is already,
and just slap the NBA brand
the best
on it
teams
and
in Turkey. I mean, they have the FIBA Champions League. It's essentially like soccer, but it's in a European style where Real Madrid has said, hey, yeah, we're willing to leave EuroLeague in order to go to NBA Europa League, or whatever the heck it's going to be called, where it essentially would be another professional league where the talent from in the European leagues right now would just be a part of the NBA's league as opposed to whatever league they have over there, the Europa League combination of Germany, Spain, France, Turkey, etc.
I don't know how realistic it's ever going to be and I know that it was last year the NFL was reportedly monitoring like supersonic flight and how much faster these planes are getting, and can they shorten the length of time they got to be in a plane to get places and all this other stuff. The league who wins is the league who actually puts teams there.
The NBA is the closest way
and lets them play the other teams.
To me. Because what they're doing, they're not forming new teams necessarily. They're forming new teams, but they're pulling teams from other leagues. I think the NBA is significantly closer to this, I think, than any other one, because you're not forming new teams necessarily. It's Real Madrid, you want to come over here and play? Perfect. We don't even have to form a new team. Get a new roster. Bring your roster over. It's easy.
If you just establish and roll in that, it does work. The one thing I'll say that helps the NBA versus the NFL is I think it is easier to plan a 10-day European road trip, right? Than it is these, like, the NFL team who for the first time this year tried to just stay there for 2 weeks. We're like, this sucks.
They've been doing that for a couple of years now.
Yeah. So, like, NBA and baseball, they already do these, like, 10, 12-day road trips. Like their sport is built around the idea of we are gone for a while. The NFL is like, we're gone for a day. We travel on Saturday. We fly back Sunday night. They're not gone for any length of time. And internationally, that's a real challenge. And it makes it hard to say, let's just have a European division, but we all got to travel over. It doesn't work the same way. The NBA should have a leg up in this. I think baseball would too, but baseball is not popular in Europe. Baseball, you got to go to different parts of the world to find
I don't think the NBA, though,
popularity.
I think it's a separate thing. I don't think the NBA is ever trying to have, the San Antonio Spurs play the Berlin, whatever, other than
they should.
I don't think so. No, I think you got to keep them separate. To the point where here in the United States, none of us should really care about future NBA Europe. That's something that is going to be I view it as two separate entities. It is truly a business decision. I don't think this is how do
we get a league over there?
I don't think this is, hoping the LA Lakers are playing regular season games against 5 teams in Europe. This is a separate league. This is a purely financial thing. And it'll be something that us in the U.S. probably just really don't care about, frankly. And they're not doing it for us.
The reason why they're pulling interest from teams like Real Madrid or Barcelona, or you just run down some of the names of the other top teams over there. They're going to give them more money, so they'll make, like, Real Madrid will make more money from a basketball standpoint than Europa League. As a result, they're more likely to want to go to the NBA. And also, I think the one thing that also makes it better,
it's the live model, is steal them by paying them more.
Yeah, to an extent, I think, yeah. But they also have arenas that are already built and ready to go for those specific teams. Like in the NFL, like, you're not going to have, if the NFL wanted to build a team and form a team franchise over in Europe, they're not playing in Tottenham Stadium because Tottenham plays at the same, they play on the same grounds on a regular basis. Like, you wouldn't be able to, I don't think you'd be able to share a stadium with a Premier League team. You'd have to build your own NFL stadium from the standpoint of how the things are shared, where like Barcelona's already got an arena that they play in. It already fits. You just have to form the league and get enough teams to buy in, and then it's formed. Like, it might happen in a couple.
But I will say,
it probably could happen in 3 to 5 years, I bet.
But if they just do like exhibition games, then I don't care. Right?
That's probably what they would do, though.
Like,
it would. The Spurs might go over there for an exhibition game. They already play in Paris sometime.
They already do preseason games.
Wemby just played in Paris.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Those don't move the needle for me. You got to, to win the, arms race, in my opinion.
But that's not what, I don't think that's what, I truly don't think
the NFL talks about that.
Yeah, the NFL might one day have teams in Europe. And have it in the same league. I do not believe what the NBA is talking about here is going to be like a NBA, and we just have franchises. They're talking about having a separate league altogether.
If we're talking 12 to 16. They're not going to have 45 teams in the NBA. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. Because if you look at, like, you could have 2 or 3 teams in Germany, 2 or 3 teams in France and Spain, England, maybe. But like you include
the biggest markets
Turkey
in Europe.
and Greece, of course, as well. Like, they're in Italy. It's enough to form like you were saying, an NFL Europe, or I don't know how many teams were in NFL Europe, but
yeah, back in the day, that was a thing.
Was it 6? 8?
NFL Europe.
I used to play with them on Madden.
It was a 6-team. It was a 6-teamer. They had teams in England, Germany,
6 teams is also
Netherlands,
tough to
Scotland,
sustain.
and Spain. Yeah, and it failed. Like, NFL Europe was, how many years did it go?
I think
technically it was around longer than we think. I don't remember. It was around from 89 to 07, but I felt that was that sounds a different variation of it. Yeah, I was like, there's no way.
From a standpoint of the world's game as well, basketball is more of a world's game than American football is. So you'd have more buy-in, I think, immediately from a fan perspective in those other countries.
All right, up next, we get back into the Royals Stadium news that they are no longer considering the Aspiria campus site on 119th and Knoll. What does that mean? How do we get here? That's next.
What's up, Kansas City? This is Vinny Pasquantino, and you're listening to Cody and Gold. Weekdays starting at 10 on 96.5 The Fan.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Hi, I'm Tom Shane. Since 1929, Shane Company has helped millions of customers find their dream engagement ring. I still hand-select every ruby and sapphire center stone, choosing each one for its unique color and life. We're proud to offer the widest selection of beautiful colored gemstones for your engagement ring and fine jewelry, because a friend wants you to have nothing but the best. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
Hi there, I'm Charlie. And I'm Carter. Our dad is Rex with Rex Buys KC. If you're thinking about selling a home in Kansas City and don't know where to start, our dad can help. Sometimes life throws curveballs, like moving for a new job, dealing with a divorce, or inheriting a house you weren't expecting. Dad doesn't just make offers, he talks with people to help them understand all of their options. No pressure, and it doesn't cost anything to talk with his team. He's a local home buyer who really knows Kansas City. If selling to him is the right choice, he'll give you a fair cash offer, and you can close on your timeline even in as little as 7 days. He buys homes in any condition. No need for repairs, no fees, no surprises. Just an honest, easy process so you feel good about your decision. Want to talk to him? Call 816-330-6000 or go to rexbuyskc.com. Rex Buys KC, helping people make smart choices one home at a time.
DQ presents The Spicy Menu. For a limited time, try the new Flamethrower Chicken Strip Basket for $6.99 with spicy, bold strips that heat you up. Served with a side of famous DQ soft serve as a dip to cool you down. That's right, dip those spicy chicken strips right into soft serve, plus fries and toast, all for just $6.99. And add a new pineapple lemonade sparkler or cooler made with tahini. It's the limited time only Spicy Menu. Get it delivered in the DQ app. Happy, tastes good. Participation may vary.
Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing a lawyer, but getting some guy who just watches courtroom dramas.
How does the defendant plead?
Guilty. Wait, what? Also, objection.
You object to what?
Erroneous.
Counsel, approach the bench.
Hey, can I get a whack at the gavel?
You wouldn't settle for just any lawyer, so don't settle for just any insurance. Get the real deal with State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the DM Injury Law Studios. Mike's got this.
Car, truck, or motorcycle wreck? Remember, Mike's got this.
816-888-7500. Mike's got this.
Back here on Cody and Gold, hanging out on a Tuesday, what's turned out to be a very busy Tuesday. We will certainly get back into the Royals on the stadium front here in a second. Don't forget, earlier today, we also had the general manager of the Royals, also president of baseball ops, JJ Picollo. You'll hear that conversation again coming up around 1:35. We asked him about this outfield. Are they done with the outfield? Why should fans believe Lane Thomas could be a bounce-back candidate? Also, where are things at with Chris Bubich and Vinny Pasquantino when it comes to arbitration? All things that we addressed with JJ Picollo. That's coming up around 1:35. And we did have Jonathan Ketz from Fox 4 join us. We'll play some of the best of our conversation with him around 1:10 because the news in Kansas City of the day is that the Royals have confirmed they are no longer considering the 119th and null site for their future stadium. That is the Asperia campus. We know that was the site, really the only site on the Kansas side of the state line. There was ever really much discussion, if any, I should say, discussion at all. So on that note, that's a huge development in the stadium saga that has gone on way, way, way too long at this point in time. I think we could all agree. I don't care what side of the state line you're on. And at this point, Missouri is the only option, it feels like. And so where? Downtown, naturally, is where we all would think. And that's complicated because yesterday, right around this time, I think, we had the update that there was at least one Missouri state representative that, I guess for lack of a better phrase, spilled the beans that Mayor Quinn Lucas is potentially looking to use $500 million in taxpayer funds through the Casey Port Authority to go to the Royals for a stadium project. That would not require a public vote, but as Jonathan Ketz told us earlier, it could still, if in fact, if there was a petition that residents of KC-Mo, I don't know what the signature limit was.
He made it sound like it was a relatively low limit.
So if that happened, there's still a scenario where even if you did what potentially could be happening, circumventing the funds, it still might end up needing a public vote. And we all know, while circumstances are different now, we know what happened the last time there was a public vote for the Royals and Chiefs.
Look, the truth is that all of this certainly indicates that Missouri is, again, the favorite. Washington Square Park being the favorite of those sites. I'm not willing to completely eliminate Kansas. But admittedly, the percentage got way smaller today because the Asperia site, while I've heard rumblings, and I do mean rumblings, as in the lowest conceivable level of potential discourse of other sites that they considered in Kansas, including one by the river or whatever else. Asperia was clearly the front runner of the Kansas sites. It was, in some people's eyes, very close to, if not, I think Bob said he thought it was a done deal, and people in Kansas that he had spoken to thought it was a done deal. So, they thought it was pretty close to the finish line there, and now, obviously, they're sending out a public statement saying, we're not doing it. It doesn't fit our world. Now, that's controlling the narrative. Do I think part of why it doesn't fit their stadium requirements anymore is that area is no longer interested in hosting it? Yeah, probably. I imagine that is a portion of what's going on here, and not that they just did a bunch of research and all of a sudden decided it doesn't work anymore. I hated the site. I am glad it is no longer in consideration. But that doesn't mean that I still don't have questions about what their next location is.
And that's the thing. You and I both prefer downtown baseball going back 4 years ago, I guess, when we first were talking stadium stuff. And so this makes it more likely. I think the scary thing is we still just don't know how viable that is.
Yeah,
even
can
though
they make it work?
And by the way, as we're talking, this is a new statement from Kansas City Mayor Quinn Lucas. Sam McDowell did tweet this out. This is a statement from the mayor on the news now that the Royals are no longer considering the 119th and null site on the Kansas side of the state line. Quote, "Nothing changes for Kansas City with today's news. Kansas City will continue to work diligently and expeditiously with other public stakeholders, our community, and the team to ensure Kansas City remains the home of the Royals in a new transformational downtown facility that is a responsible investment for our taxpayers, our region, and our team." There was also a statement yesterday, a spokesperson for the mayor yesterday, suggesting that the news about the $500 million and all that, basically pushing back against that being true. Although, again, I don't know how they get that done right now without that being the case.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of it. And look, here's the truth. I think the Chiefs hurt them in two ways. One, they pretty clearly, and Jonathan Katz reported this, and Bob and everyone else, there was a lot of energy and momentum that the Royals would announce going to Kansas around the same time the Chiefs did. But I do think that as it sits right now, the numbers that came out for the Chiefs in Kansas is just a negative headline that damages the Royals' chances of getting a public vote, Because you see the numbers and you're like, damn, paying a lot of money. That is a huge chunk that Wyandotte and the Star Bond District is given to the Chiefs. And so, the public perception of it is always kind of like damaging, and you knew the numbers were going to be high, and yet it still shocked some people with those figures. And so I don't like for the Royals, like, can they pass, like, genuine question they would have to ask them, can they pass a public vote? And
it depends.
I definitely think
what's the sales tax increase? I mean, there's a lot of elements to that.
Let's call it half of what it originally was. Instead of a 3/8 cents, it's a quarter cent. Let's call it a quarter cent sales tax. So quarter cent sales tax, downtown stadium. We've asked the text line this before. I think almost every person who voted on this the first time would prefer Washington Square Park to the site they did. So let's say they get a little bit of a bump because of the site location's better. A little bit of a bump because the Chiefs are gone now. We want to keep the Royals in Kansas City, and maybe a little bit of bump because it's less of a tax than it was before. Technically, instead of an extension of the exact same tax you were paying, you're getting a tax cut, I imagine is what they'll say. That's not actually true, but you get the point. It's practically a tax cut, Gold. However, if they do that, can they win the vote? I still think, and like I'm sure that there's people who listen to the show who listen to the Royals. I think their job on the PR end of this, on the stadium front, has been very bad. I thought the rollout from the beginning was bad. The process is bad.
The campaign was a disaster.
And I think I don't think it's gone great since then. The fact that we were 2 years later and you just can't even like come out and say something. It just makes it look like Sherman can't decide. Or he can't figure out the check he wants. Or when he gets the check he wants more, and then that check slips through his grasp, and now he's going to a different check. Like, it just, publicly, it looks bad.
I can't argue that. I think the other part, while he is the majority owner of the Kansas City Royals, they have a huge ownership group of, what is it, Cody, 20 people that some have much smaller shares of the ownership pie, and I get it, and he's the owner of the Kansas City Royals. But there's an ownership group, and there's Kansas City ties all over the place. But having a massive ownership group might make this more complicated.
Slow the wheels of motion?
Might make this a bit more complicated as well. That might be a little problematic in this entire thing as well. I think ultimately, they're going to go to Missouri, but there's a ton of steps still to get downtown baseball. There's the public vote aspect, as you brought up. There's also, like, how viable is the Washington Square Park site? Because we all know they want a ballpark district. Is there enough land right there at Washington Square Park to do what they want to really do? That's the issue. Compared to the East Village site, which was the original site way back when, which would have been the perfect site. We don't have to rehash exactly that whole thing again. I think everybody by now knows kind of what happened with that. But that was the best site that they could have ever chosen. And I don't know if there's any way where they end up back to the East Village site, but it does feel like you heard from Jonathan Ketz even that the mayor, along maybe with the Royals, but certainly the mayor, really likes the Washington Square Park site.
I'm not saying it's perfect in any capacity, and I do understand that there's real viscera for some between the two states, that they love nothing to more than to dunk on the other and say this side's better, our area's better, our part of town. Like, for the Missouri and the Kansas side, both know the people said they're not going to go to the Kansas stadium and all the, and like the Kansas side, there was like mocking or whatever the version is. Here's the truth. This has nothing to do with the fact that I live in Missouri, because I'm fine with the Chiefs Stadium being in Kansas. That side at 119th sucked. I'm sorry. It sucked from a baseball enjoyment standpoint. If your argument is from an economic standpoint, I don't know the numbers well enough to make an argument for that. But from a baseball stadium, I'm sorry, it sucked. And I'm glad it's not going there. I'm not going to pretend. But it has nothing to do with the Kansas. I just didn't want it there. There are Kansas sites I think potentially could work.
Yeah, we both said on the show going back 4 years ago. Go back 4 years, that downtown baseball, having gone to downtown baseball sites.
I want it.
Whether it's in Chicago, whether it's in St. Louis or whether it's in Colorado, downtown baseball is awesome. It just is. And that, let's not forget, from day one was the original plan of the Kansas City Royals under John Sherman.
That might be why he's never gotten the deal done with Kansas. Well, why these deals have gotten close to the finish line, reportedly, but not gotten over the finish line. It might just be that the temptation to be in downtown, is it too optimistic to say that the fact that they are publicly admitting they are no longer pursuing specifically that site? They're not publicly saying they're not pursuing Kansas anymore.
They might as well. As well.
Publicly, they're technically saying there's still multiple sites in Kansas that they would consider. But that publicly, they're saying...
The state of Kansas high-level representatives publicly have said they're done with the Royals.
Yeah, they have. And so when you look at, like, is it too optimistic to say that the fact that they are publicly willing to say 119th is out, that is... I should take that as... they are closer to announcing a deal in Missouri. Like that was like the first step of like 3 weeks from now, I'm going to find out they got a stadium in Missouri. A month from now, 2 months from now, sometime before summer hits.
I mean, how many times have we had this?
That's what I'm asking.
How many times we had this conversation?
So probably
though?
too optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Kansas is out of the picture, then that's why you were asking, like, how far in the process are they? Like, and are they at square one? I don't think they're back at square one because I think now the game of playing two sides against each other of the state line, like that game to me is over now. Kansas is done. So it's just Missouri, and I understand Clay County has been brought up over and over, but I think it's KC Mo or bust at this point in time.
Do you think the Royals are in a good bargaining position? I think that they're kind of stuck in no man's land.
Aren't they in a worse spot if Kansas is done?
If Kansas is truly done, yeah,
you're in a worse spot.
And look, I don't know what percentage. I assume you wouldn't put it at 0 just because of the way this process has gone.
Right.
But I
mean, it's close. It's close to 0 though on the Kansas side.
I still
now.
think it's like 15%. Or
Really?
20.
Okay.
Look,
I was like, give me like 5, less than 5% chance.
The reason simply is why I feel like this process started 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Like the vote was 2 years ago, but this process started 4 years ago. In that time, I feel like I have heard people confidently say, like with their chest, Chiefs to Kansas, Chiefs to Missouri, Royals to Kansas, Royals to Missouri. Just every single. So, like, I just have a hard time, like, thinking it's dead. Like, and look, that's me. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, probably, it's more probably too conservative with it is the truth. Yeah. And it would probably make for better radio if I just said Kansas is dead. And you're not saying that. You're still saying it's a 5%. But it does feel low.
Pretty much there, though. I mean, I'm pretty much there. I mean,
I also think it's going to Missouri. Yeah, sure.
And look, I ultimately think they will figure out a stadium deal to have the team in Kansas City, Missouri when it's all said and done. But at the same time, if you're going to take one side of the state line out of it in Kansas, there's more risk than ever, though, of this thing not happening. Like we've talked about, the most important thing is keeping the teams in the KC Metro and all that. Well, naturally, you just eliminated an option, so they better find a way to get it done in Kansas City, Missouri. And I guess Clay County is still in play, although we know that there's at least one of the 7 county.
Cat's made it seem like maybe there's a couple of others who are a little tired of it.
Yeah, and if that's the case, well, then is Clay County, how interested are they? That also would require a public vote in Clay County. Yeah. And a much higher tax because of the population size.
Yeah, it would require a much higher tax.
So we'll see. Someone said, what are the chances they move out of KC? It went up a small amount. I don't think that's happening. I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything.
Less than
it went up.
5%.
It went up a little bit only because you eliminated Kansas.
Maybe
I think
it went
potentially.
Maybe it went to 2% to 4%. But I mean, it didn't. Like for me, it didn't. It didn't jump dramatically. There's still a lot of things that would have to go south.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the Titanic. A lot of other barges got to break before that ship would sink.
It went from a 1%. Yeah, we're not far off. Like 1% to 5%. Something like that.
It's a low-ish.
I ultimately think they will be in KC Mo, but there's just a lot of hurdles yet again to jump through with the Royals now not considering the 119th end-all site. All right, let's get to the random question of the day.
Random question.
The random question today brought to you by Kansas City Urology Care at KCUC. Remember, you see the best in KC. Visit kcurology.com today. For you, Gold, you Drew. Text line 913-586-7965. And, of course, on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook, where we live stream the show every single day over on those channels. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Pop to the top of your feed. Try to chat with you over there as well. Random question today, simple, money-related, Gold. Okay. I want to know greed versus how quickly you think you could get through the cash. You got a choice. You can either have $250,000 cold hard cash right now, and you can take as much time as you want to spend it on whatever you want to spend it on, no questions asked. Or I can give you $750,000, but you got to spend it in the next 12 hours.
$750,000.
Do you think you could spend that in 12 hours?
I have to go buy a house immediately.
Yep. You can't get through escrow. Like, it's got to be things you can finish purchasing.
You're saying I have to complete the entire purchase?
You have to complete the purchase.
Oh, well, then $250,000.
Yeah, well, then you can't take the $750,000.
Because you can't complete a house purchase in a day, I don't think.
You're saying that there's no rollover of the money. It has to be done in a day. If you're telling me that
I
can't...
There's no rollover.
You're telling me the house...
I'll give you 24 hours. But if the house doesn't close, it doesn't count because you haven't spent the money.
You're really getting into semantics, though. If you tell someone $750,000, you can buy whatever.
That's the point of the hypothetical.
No, but you're saying it has to clear escrow and all that. Like, technically, when I buy anything, it technically isn't finalized. I'm out of my bank account to the next day anyway. Like, every purchase.
I'll give you 24 hours. Not every purchase.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
in this case, it's cash.
Look at your
So I
bank
wouldn't be
account.
able to get a
It's
house.
just cold hard cash. No processing there.
Then the answer is $250,000.
Yeah, it would have to be $250,000.
That's
Really?
That's the only answer.
Because the house is the part that I'm trying to eliminate from the conversation. But you could go buy a Lambo. I don't care. You go knock that. You can buy that in a day.
That's a waste. That's a waste.
Well,
I'll take the $250,000. I'll keep
go and get a
working.
house.
I'll invest the $250,000 and I'll keep working, and I'll feel good about retiring earlier than I thought. That's what I'll do. That's my answer then. $250,000, invest it, retire earlier than I thought.
From the 816, somebody's just like trading currency for currency, which I think is not in the spirit of the question, which is I'm just going to buy 7 Bitcoin. Are you kind of trading currency? You're ruining the spirit of it.
You don't like their answer.
It's a fine sidestep. I'll give them credit for that. But it feels like,
and by their logic,
it's sidestepping. I'm trying to make you spend it on hard items, like actual things.
Also, how are you taking that $750,000 in cash and getting the Bitcoin that quick? How are you buying? How are you transferring that money to be able to complete the transaction in $750,000?
Yeah, it's cash. Somebody says they take the cash, they pay off their mortgage, try to spend as much as they could, even if they didn't get through the $750,000. They think they can at least do more than $250,000 worth of damage.
Gotcha.
It feels like in the investment returns, you should be able to get that back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, some of the payments go across in seconds in crypto. I understand that. I'm saying though, like you have a stack of $750K. How are you getting that? Like I understand there are Bitcoin ATMs around the city and stuff. How are you physically getting $750,000? Like you're not force feeding $750,000 through an ATM in time. That'll take you all day. You won't be able to do that in time. I don't think.
No,
I've never tried, but my guess is it'll take you a while.
What kind of things do you think you would buy if you had the $750 in one day? Can't do a house. What else what do you purchase? It's a Brewster's Million situation, but a one day only spend. New car. That's a pretty safe one, right?
I'll go. Actually, this texter's correct. I'll just go buy a bunch of high end sports cards. Not cars. Cards.
Oh, cards.
Yeah.
Could you get those locally fast enough?
And then I'll just go to all the card shops and buy their highest. They got some very high end cards, and then I'll just flip them and
like
get
we're tens of thousands.
Yep. And then I'll just flip them.
That's a good. I mean, look, it's going to take you a little while to
that
flip
way I can
them.
get the cash back because you're not letting me keep the cash.
No, I'm not letting you keep.
And then
the
I'll
cash.
just take it to the big card show.
You don't do that much work.
Yep.
You want to spend? Could you? I mean,
if you're not letting me keep the money after one day.
What do you think the single most expensive sports card is in the city? I'm just curious. Do you think someone's got one worth $100K that you can buy?
Somebody showed me a card. I don't know, Drew. Drew, you were with me in the Detroit Lions Sunday Night Football game. We were talking to somebody at that game. He had a card that's easily worth $150,000. Not on him that night, but we had a photo of it's his card. He
didn't just carry around Logan Paul on a necklace.
He did not do that. Someone said just go buy a bunch of gold bars.
Again, I think you're ruining the spirit of it.
You just want us to give you one specific answer. It's a random question of the day.
That's just trading money for money. Gold is money. I was looking for you to have to spend it, which is clearly just ruining the whole question. I should have thought of something else. And I liked that question, and apparently I shouldn't have liked that question because everybody's just like, I'll just own gold. That's the same as investing. At that point, just get the $250,000 and invest it.
People are saying they just pay off their mortgage with it, but Cody's saying that's not allowed.
So you want
no fun.
I didn't say pay off. Pay off if you have a mortgage, I think.
Well, then that's the answer for most people. If let's say they have a house.
If you own a house, it probably is.
If you had to own a house and you still have $200,000 that you owe on it, then you're just going to take the $750,000 and pay off the house.
I imagine so, but maybe you'd still make more in the investment.
That also wouldn't be complete by the end of the day, Mr. Semantics over here.
I don't know.
That wouldn't have been done quick enough.
You don't think if I just had cold hard cash, if I started with 24 hours, I couldn't pay off my house? I mean, I could go on my mortgage payment and just make a payment.
Is your lender in town? Do they have a physical building?
But I have.
Or the bank, I'm sorry, that has your mortgage.
You're saying if you want to pay off the mortgage, if you send
Can I just go to my online portal and
if you send it
pay?
through?
No, but you're saying I can't even buy a house. That's to go through escrow. So
but that has a legal process to go through. Paying off my house. I mean, I feel like I can give them the money.
That payment's not processing by the end of the day either. So
I know, but
maybe
Mr.
Semantics over here. You're not letting me do what I want to do. You don't get to do that either.
The escrow though. The escrow's that takes days. I don't know what the shortest turnaround in escrow is.
Someone says
it feels like
they would buy cocaine. Well, that's a lot of cocaine.
Person said they're putting
So what are you turning into the biggest drug mule in the area?
Okay.
The entire Midwest? Wow. $750,000. That feels like a lot. People mentioning exotic pets, all kinds of crazy stuff.
If you allowed me to buy a house and literally that was the only thing I could use it for, I would absolutely.
What's crazy though is you could buy a house at the $250, you know?
Correct.
And you can take your time and find the house you like and all this other stuff, right? You can be careful and thoughtful in the process.
I like what somebody said. They said, Gold, you could just charter a jet that day and go wherever you need to go buy whatever cards you want in that scenario. And then you could easily do it that way.
That's true. You do have to sell them again, which kind of sucks. It's
Yeah,
going to take a while to find a buyer for a card that's $150,000.
But you buy the card that where they're pretty liquid. You're not really worried about.
Yeah,
you're not worried.
You
about
can't
that.
sell. You don't have to sell them all right away either, except for the ones that you're worried about losing cost.
Someone says they're putting $750,000 on red at the casino. They won't usually let you
That
do
would
that.
be the most
Won't let you-
intense.
Won't let you do that.
That would be the most
You have to get a
intense.
floor person to you have to do a lot of
Table.
background to even convince them to let. They still probably wouldn't let you do it.
What happened to your big dollar card? Well, I wasn't anywhere near that. It was $11,000. Not quite $750,000.
Slightly different.
Yeah.
Because the random question was either going to be that or if you liked the story that was resurfacing of Sam Darnold's grandfather, the old Marlboro man. You didn't see that?
No.
Sam Darnold's grandfather had an epic, Teddy Rooseveltian history, right? All-American football player. Was one of the 5 original Marlboro men, right? His name is Dick Hammer. That's his grandfather's actual name.
Dick Hammer.
Yes.
I saw somebody photoshopped
It's
Sam Darnold
insane.
into the advertisement.
So
I did not see that.
So yeah, it was going to be based on whether or not you think that is that one of the greatest nicknames of all time. I know Magic's pretty good and nickname relative. That was his name. I'm sure that Richard was his first name, but the idea of you have to look up the history of it, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, I did not know about that. I am going to check that out.
You're gonna learn about it now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I got to pull it back up because he had some insane. Then he said he barely knew him. He played basketball at USC. He was an Olympian for volleyball. He was an actor, one of the first 5 Marlboro men, and his name was Captain Dick Hammer. And I don't know,
the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
across as,
I don't know what to
gives
say.
those vibes.
That is easily one of the most interesting people that's ever existed, and that just happens to be Sam Darnold's grandfather, who he said he did not know super well because he died in 99, and I can't imagine that. I don't know how old Sam Darnold was in 1999, but I'm sure it was young. Because he's 28 years old now, so he might not even
probably.
He might not
He
even
was
remember.
born in 97.
So he doesn't even remember meeting his grandfather with an epic. He was also a firefighter, actor, and athlete.
See, some of those stories of that's where if you were to ask Sam Darnold who he'd go back in history to meet, it might be him. You imagine the stories he would probably tell. Probably some crazy stories.
That guy? Yeah. I imagine it would
not
be
just because he's
insane.
your grandfather, but obviously
Somebody says donate it to charity. Somebody says they buy 100 Amazon pallets.
Bad
by the way.
idea.
Directed at you.
Bad idea.
That's directed at you specifically.
Private jet to Monte Cristo and gamble the whole time. Should I allow gambling? That's not trading currency for currency. That's risking losing the currency, right?
You could.
I think
allow
you have
that.
to bet the full amount if I allow you to bet it.
If you gave me,
You're making all these rules. all these rules.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I'd be able to I wouldn't be able to retire off of it. But I legitimately think taking the $750, if you let me buy a house, I would go buy a house and you would never hear from me again.
You'd quit this job?
I would.
I don't think you can retire on $750.
But I think I would find.
Yeah, you still got to work.
Yeah. I'd have to work, but I think from the standpoint of being able to pay everything off, have everything paid for,
not having rent, essentially.
not having rent, there's no mortgage because you pay everything off.
You got to pay property taxes. I mean, I don't want to make you seem like
yeah.
there's nothing
That
you
or
pay.
if something goes wrong
Why would you
or
quit
whatever.
your job? And you're in your 30, and you even if you inherited $750,000, you wouldn't want to quit your job.
It would have to.
You could set yourself up to where you could retire by the time you're 50 easily at that point. But
yeah, you could retire young. I don't think
Maybe
you
that's
quit
the
yet.
move.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to still work. It doesn't have to be this job, but it's got to be a job.
I don't mind working, but it's the
Are you
concept
trying to quit
of
right now?
No.
What the hell's going on here? Drew trying to quit this job?
A little bit.
I've tried to quit lots of times. That's not new for me.
I wish that it was 75 degrees outside. Is
Well,
what
so
I
do-
wish
so
right
do
now.
I.
I have been miserable the last week.
Yeah, the winter
I
blues,
have
man.
been-
The winter blues is a thing. It can happen.
I have been
get it. I feel you.
absolutely miserable the
I
last
hear
2
you.
weeks.
Just the
No, the winter blues is
seasonal
a
affective
real
disorder.
thing.
You
yeah.
could have come over. We could have shared drinks.
No,
No,
see,
tiled, father
it
and
would-
son.
but-
We could have had a moment, Drew.
I did talk to my dad this morning. That was a good conversation.
Oh, nice. That's good.
But
What
yeah,
about things we could have talked about.
I just checking in.
Yeah, it's been tough. Tough time of year, man.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
Not fun. Not fun. All right. Up next, let's get to the 1 o'clock hour. Let's talk more about a suggestion for the NFL playoffs that I think would be a terrible idea. We'll also let you hear some of what Jonathan Ketz from Fox 4 told us earlier today about the stadium news where the Royals are not considering the 119th and all site anymore.
Cody and Gold.
I'm just telling you the facts.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com. 96.5, The Fan.
Obviously, football's biggest game is right around the corner. You can get on that action right now in Missouri over at Underdog. If you're not an Underdog yet, I got great news. Because new customers score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you make your first $5 fantasy entry. It's really easy. You're going to look at those players for the games next week. You're going to say, all right, I'm just going to choose which players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Get them all right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Plus, new promos dropping daily in the app. So if you like making entries and winning money, then Underdog is the place to do it for the big game. They also have drafts and ladders and streaks, pick'ems and champions, and so many different ways to make those entries over at Underdog. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today. Use promo code TAPP, T-A-P-P, to score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. That's promo code TAPP, T-A-P-P. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets on underdogfantasy.com/web/playing-good-terms_DFS_HTML for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
And Doug. There's nowhere I wouldn't go to help someone customize and save on car insurance with Liberty Mutual, even if it means playing in a football game.
Boom! 42! You're going down, Doug!
Oh yeah? Your price on car insurance when you customize and save is going down.
Hey!
Limu? What are you doing on their team? Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
This Wednesday, January 28th, our friends at Centric are hosting a KC Tech Career Summit at Centric. It's open networking with KC area tech professionals, facility tours, breakout conversations with instructors, career services, and a live panel featuring former Centric students and local employers, plus a Q&A.
Whether you're just starting out, considering a career change, or simply interested in what the tech field offers, this summit offers you a gateway to that. Please RSVP in advance by going to Centric.com and clicking the KC Tech Summit at the top of the page.
When winter's chill hits, trust Hamilton Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Rooter. For a limited time, get up to $2,000 in instant savings on a new HVAC system from Hamilton. Our pros offer expert installation, flexible financing, and energy-efficient options that can help lower your energy bills. Over 40 years experience and more than 8,000 five-star reviews are great reasons to trust Hamilton. But don't wait. This is a limited time offer. Visit callhamilton.com/radio for details, terms, and conditions. License number 2025-11121.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code FRESH to get an extra 35 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code FRESH for a 35 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code FRESH for a 35 cents per gallon bonus.
The new era of UFC on Paramount Plus continues with UFC 325 live from Australia. Catch featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski in a rematch of his epic title fight against Diego Lopez, and the always dangerous Dan Hooker throws down with dynamic finisher Benoit Saint Denis in a high-action lightweight showdown. UFC fans, pay-per-view just got knocked out. Catch UFC 325 on Saturday, January 31st, only on Paramount Plus. Stream every fight live with one subscription. Visit ParamountPlus.com/UFC to get started.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can test your sports IQ in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions all game long. You know the game, put it to use. Trade every play with Robinhood. Download the app today. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm.
Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch all your favorite shows, shorts, and clips. This is your home for Kansas City sports. 96.5 The Fan, KFMZ FM and AM, HD1 and HD2 Kansas City, an Odyssey sports station.
1 o'clock hour here on Cody and Gold. Coming up in 10 minutes or so, you'll hear some of our conversation with Jonathan Katz from Fox 4. We got his perspective and what he's hearing after the Royals confirming today they are no longer considering the 119th and all site for a future stadium. So does that mean downtown? What exactly is next for the Royals and their stadium saga? So we will get there in just a few minutes. Also, we did talk baseball with the general manager of the Royals, JJ Picollo, earlier today. You'll hear that at 1:35. We asked him about Jack Caglione, how they envision his season and how they balance not putting too much pressure on him. Do they think they could get something done before arbitration hearing with Bubic and Pasquantino? Plus, just getting set for spring training. That's coming up in just a bit. But first, don't forget, the Chiefs off-season show is coming up in a few weeks right here on 96.5 The Fan. That's Tuesday, February 10th. We're going to have everybody in studio. So we'll have Bob, Dusty, C-Dot in studio with Cody and I from 9 a.m. to 11 on Tuesday, February 10th, talking all things Chiefs off-season.
It's going to be a good time.
It is.
Now, of course, honestly, it's a super busy. Funny enough, Bob Edwards, the program director over at 98.9 The Rock. He today, we were like chatting in the hall. He's like, "You guys still talking Chiefs? You just switched over to Royals?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." Bob, let me tell you, Chiefs, that's a year-round affair.
Was this conversation in the bathroom?
No, just outside.
Okay.
Near the water fountain
checking. I didn't know
area.
if you guys were just midstream and just chatting up.
No, it started at the hand washing station of the bathroom.
So you were in the bathroom.
It started, but the conversation continued outside, but nobody was using the restroom at the time the conversation started.
Just checking.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Just checking.
Not a full conversation in the bathroom. But you gotta say a sentence, we can move on. We all know each other well enough at this point. Also, our bathroom's terrible, as I pointed out. It needs a full renovation.
Why don't you? I'm sure you can fix that, Cody. Why don't you just?
Commercial bathroom?
Sure you'll just renovate it for everybody.
How much are they going to pay me to do that?
Mr. Tile Guy.
Tile guy? That's what I am now?
Tile Guy.
Oh, man. I still got to paint the cabinets. That might be the worst part of the whole job. It's going to take so long. You know how long it takes to prep?
Will your wife help you with
paint?
that or no?
Yeah, she will.
Well, then you're fine. You got two people.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Two people now.
The kitchen's not that big. It's two people. There's,
honestly,
8 cabinet doors?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
10, not including the drawers. There's drawers too.
Okay.
And walls, not just the cabinets, Going full, not kitchen reno, because I'm just changing the backsplash and painting cabinets and keeping the countertops. But, by my standards, kitchen renovation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's all. By my
Did
standards.
you see Mike Florio floating out an idea? Look,
Yes,
I understand
I did.
that the Broncos-Patriots game was terrible. And the blizzard, no doubt, changed the way the game was played in the fourth quarter and the part of the third quarter. I think we all agree there. I think we also know that is somewhat of a one-off. Right? There's always going to be snow in the playoffs at some point with outdoor stadiums. And we know more and more stadiums are going indoors. But he said, should we be moving conference championship games to neutral sites? This is, one, an overreaction, and two, a terrible idea. You guys remember during COVID, right after COVID, I'm sorry, the whole DeMar Hamlin, Bills Bengals game got canceled. And so you and I even differed on this at the time because they were going to decide that if a Bills-Chiefs AFC title game, it would have been played at a neutral site. And I was like, that's BS. Remember, they were going to not allow the Chiefs to host an AFC title game if it would have been Chiefs-Bills. Now, it ended up not being Chiefs-Bills, and so Kansas City hosted it, and it ended up working out. But they were going to play that game in like Indianapolis, I think, or Detroit. Remember, Dallas. These were the cities they were discussing. If the Bills had beaten the Bengals, it was Atlanta, I'm sorry. Atlanta was where that game would have been. And they were going to have 50,000 tickets sold in 24 hours and all that kind of stuff. That was a real thing. And that was a terrible idea then, and that was because of a medical emergency and terrible situation with DeMar Hamlin. Fast forward to now, we have one playoff game in a blizzard, which stunk, and now we're suggesting that they should go neutral site. A terrible idea. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Can we stop this just because the weather's bad? I don't and I know that I'm probably in the minority because I've heard everybody talk about this, and I don't know minority, but It seems like more people are like, I don't want weather to impact the game the way it impacted. I'm like, it's fine. What is this? A couple times a year, maybe?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's super windy and people can't make kicks in Chicago. Sometimes in baseball, the grass is really slippery and people can't get the same jumps. Sports being impacted by the weather is part of what makes sports great, is that they have to accommodate. In baseball, they have to deal with fences being taller or playing it off of the Fenway fence. And in football, weather impacts it. And like, that's just part of sport to me. So this idea of like, let's go neutral site. So it takes all of the like element out of it. It's really just the best team wins now. Like, no, you have to play through the elements like anyone else. You get the advantage of playing better football than them, forcing them to play in that environment. Yeah, also, by the way, it was snowy in New England too.
Yeah. Also, the reward though for your fans too, Cody, is you get home playoff games. That's why I push back even at times when we differ on, hey, if you would, we've argued on
take some of the juice out of the end of the season.
But we've argued like, hey, if you're 7-9, you shouldn't get a home playoff game. And I've always told you, no, you win your division, there's a reward. And so I view it the same way with this. I get to an AFC title game. If I'm the better seed, my fans get a home game. All of a sudden, moving it to a random city and hoping some of them, a majority won't be able to
travel to go see it.
Absolutely
I paid
not.
season tickets to be there the entire time, to be a fan, to watch my team. This all should be a reward for being the best team.
Absolutely. Now, it is weird, I admit. Suddenly it's the Super Bowl and all they do is neutral site and all they do is put it in nice cities or domes or whatever. So it is like, if we truly all love the weather so much, they'd be playing the Super Bowl in Chicago this weekend, but they're not, or next weekend, but they're not.
I guess it's, and some of this is obviously because this is how it's been for a very long time, so we're just accustomed to it. I get it. I really do understand it. But for the final game, Gold, there is far more at play than there is,
they're both high stakes.
No, I just meant like from a business, like the reason why it happened is like a business interest or any of these other reasons. They're not hurt. The NFL's not hurt because that game got played in the snow. There's not some different corporate interest to go in there. There should be, and some of this is just a competitive thing. They're saying like, let's put it in neutral site so the best team really wins. I'll tell you right now, do you know what's helped more by that snow? Denver. That game would not have been as close as it was had Denver not been able to essentially just eliminate New England ability to score. All they had to do was kick one field goal instead of go for it on 4th and 1. And it's still probably 10-10 in the 7th quarter of that game. So, like, that game stayed closer because of the weather. You should have, I just think, if you should get to choose, and maybe this is because I like baseball, you should get to choose the impact you want for your team. That is the ability to, like, own a team, choose a stadium. So if you're in Buffalo, New York, and you want an outdoor stadium because you think it's going to make your team tough, hard-nosed, it's going to be a difficult place to play come January, that should be your choice. Denver chooses an outdoor stadium. It's hard to play there because it's cold and luckily snowy and windy.
And luckily, this has no momentum. Ironically enough, though, it was Lamar Hunt that pushed for the idea. Like, I know it's funny. Kansas City,
damn it, Lamar.
Great outdoor, great outdoor atmosphere, and this has come up in the whole stadium conversation here locally. Like, oh my gosh, what would he have thought about this? If you went to a dome. Well, Lamar Hunt actually pushed the idea for years. Now, thank goodness we are not going to, I don't think, ever really see neutral site championship games. 3 years ago when this came up, Art Roney said, I hate the idea. Falcons owner Arthur Blank, who would have benefited from it, he said he's opposed to that happening. So luckily, there's not enough owners that would ever agree to having neutral site AFC or NFC title games. There's so many reasons why that would suck.
Here's the other part of it. Now you're telling me that there's at least a chance that I have to go play the Falcons on the road, just the same as they had to play Tampa Bay on the road. Well, that sucks. It's a Super Bowl. It's supposed to be a neutral site game, and the Chiefs had to go play in their stadium. Oh, that's real cool. I was the number 1 seed. I was the best team in the league. I'm Denver. I'm the best team in the league. And now let's say the other team just happens to be the Chiefs in their dome. Now I got to play them in their building just because it's neutral site? The hell?
Yeah, no.
That's lame as hell.
It would just be a terrible atmosphere.
No. And
it
like,
really would.
It's funny because in college football, I'm asking for the opposite. Give me more in. Do you know how cool? Like, do we all agree? We all agree. Drew, you watch this? The stadium, the like on-campus games are awesome. Yep. I want more of that. I don't want more neutral site. I want less. I just want the one game. The Super Bowl. Neutral site. The end. End of list.
I will say, too, there is still part of me, and this is not like me wanting every single football game to be indoors, but I do think if, like, the Seahawks and Rams game, which was outdoor, ironically enough, was played in really, really good conditions, and we saw peak football. We saw there was
I just think those are better teams, though.
That is some of it. That is some of it, Cody. But I also don't want, like, we can say weather's part of the game. It is. But I also don't want a team to not make a Super Bowl because that day a blizzard showed up. I'm not saying that's what happened to the Broncos, but like that would be the only pushback, because I can make the exact same argument other than your halftime performance of the Super Bowl. The same argument. Then how come we aren't playing the Super Bowl in New Jersey? How come we aren't playing the Super Bowl in Minnesota? They have a dome now, but you get the point. Like, why aren't we playing it in Kansas City this weekend? I get it, business, but my point is, like, the same arguments that people want to use for keeping the AFC title game outdoors, which I do want them to do,
I just think
would be the same thing. I think I can push the same arguments towards why the Super Bowl then should just be in cold weather cities too.
I just think it's an entirely different monster. Like, everything. People getting there, the corporate, like, it's just way too big a business.
Yeah, we've been there. We know. I mean, it's
huge.
Party after party and partnership after partnership, and the halftime show is a big part of it. and all of a sudden, if it was pouring down rain, you can't maybe have the halftime show, and that's a mess and all that. So it's interesting. I don't think we have to worry about it. Mike Florio threw it out there. Blame him, not me.
Man, after I complimented him for getting something, like saying something somewhat accurate this week.
You can still compliment him for whatever you want, you know?
Only on that one. This is idiotic.
Yeah.
Keep it real. Keep it 100, Drew.
Oh, gosh. Jeez.
I don't know why I said that about you one time. I just felt like that's the way you were talking, like that, where you were getting ready to say that. We were talking about trading Andy Reid. Is that what it was?
Something
like that. Some conversation around there.
Well, it's because I was reading a statement from a politician, and in the statement it had the 100 emoji in it. And so that's how it played out. So I was reading, and he said, let's keep it 100.
That's where it started.
And I was
like, why did we start joking about that on the show?
That was the whole thing. All right. Earlier today, Jonathan Katz of Fox 4, who's been doing a great job covering the stadium news for the last couple of years, he joined us with the reaction to the Royals saying they're done with considering the 119th and null site.
I don't know if I'm surprised. I guess what I would say is that, you know, if you would have asked me this question 2 months ago, I would have said that I believed that 119th and null was in the lead. And I think I've even told CDOT that before. You know, there has been a lot of pushback to the Chiefs deal in Kansas. And I was surprised when the Chiefs were on the LCC agenda December 22nd in Topeka and not the Royals. I thought it was going to be the opposite. And I don't know if there is the appetite amongst the state lawmakers in Topeka or the state of Kansas to do two large star bond districts for two stadiums with the pushback that they've gotten with the Chiefs.
I guess part of it is, like, as you said, I guess, is that really, if you were trying to pinpoint one thing that changed, is it how it was received once they realized how big the district was going to be, how big the price tag was going to be, and then, like you said, the public outcry, I would say, that came as a result of just the number. Is that the single biggest thing that changed, I guess, the Royals part of this?
Well, I would love to know what happened behind the scenes as to why the Royals weren't on the agenda on December 22nd. I think, you know what, to be honest with you, besides the size of the star bond district for the Chiefs, if you look at all the pushback at 119th and null when it came to the Royals building at that northwest corner, it was quite large. Now, besides the HOAs who don't have as much pull, you know, in Western Overland Park and Eastern Leawood, you had T-Mobile threaten to leave the Aspiria campus, which is a ginormous supporter of Major League Baseball. And you also had the J, or the entity that owns the ground that the J is on, raise huge concerns about a ballpark being just south of their campus.
We're talking to Jonathan Katz of Fox 4 here on 96.5 The Fan. Of course, naturally, now that the 119th and null site is out, everybody wonders, okay, well then, what's the leading site at this point, and what's next? Where are you at right now with what you've heard on potentially what sites are still in play? Are we back to square one?
To me, it seems like Washington Square Park is gaining traction. And, you know, I did an interview with Kevin O'Neill and Andrea Boo. Those are two Kansas City, Missouri City Council members a couple of weeks ago. And it was a soundbite that I didn't use in my package, but they said they wanted the Royals to publicly commit to Washington Square Park and they seemed very confident. Obviously, you could say, well, of course they're going to seem confident. They want, their side to be the one that looks like it's in the lead. But with here, what's also interesting is today is the deadline for something to be on a ballot in the state of Missouri for the month of April. And we know that if the Royals were going to go to North Kansas City, that would require a vote of the residents of Clay County, because Clay County would be the one that owns the stadium, like Jackson County owns Kaufman and Arrowhead right now. So there's not going to be a meeting, obviously, tonight at in the Liberty Square of the Clay County Commissioners putting something on a ballot because they actually do want some public feedback before that would happen. And what Jason Withington, one of the commissioners, said up there. It's not going to happen for April. He's basically done negotiating. Yes, he's only one of 7 commissioners, but I do get the sense there are other commissioners who are tired of dealing with the Royals up there. Can this be done without a vote of the people in Kansas City, Missouri? That is still a very good question. But the incentives that the Royals may be able to get through the Port Authority of Kansas City, Missouri, if the ballpark is going to stay in the city limits, leads me to believe that Washington Square Park is now in the lead.
Yeah, I guess that part, like the timing of we're not doing Asperia and the leak of they're trying to get $500 million from the Port Authority, those to me is like, if I'm reading the tea leaves, that suggests to me that the Royals are announcing this Asperia thing because there's real momentum on the Missouri side. Is it only the Washington Square Park? I guess publicly they're going to say 2 or 3 sites in Kansas, 2 or 3 sites in Missouri, and we're not going to tip our hand. But do you think that they would consider East Village again? Because the mayor had mentioned being open to that site again, maybe a month ago or whatever it was.
That's a really good question, and I think it's Thomas Freestad over at the Business Journal who's probably reported on the East Village. I haven't. Judging by the way that Boo and O'Neill talked to me a couple of weeks ago, the mayor has always made it sound like he wants Washington Square Park over any other site. I believe, to me, it's Washington Square Park. I mean, I think part of the reason why you had the mayor, part of the reason I think there was a location switch, if we want to go back, freaking like 2 years now,
right.
Because the city, I don't think wanted to subsidize the bond buyers of 2 different entertainment districts. I mean, if you remember back to August of 2023, the Royals announced they wanted to build, if they were going to stay in the city limits, they wanted to build at the East Village, which is what we're talking about now. And then all of a sudden, fast forward to the day after the Super Bowl win that the Chiefs had, the Royals announced, no, we're not going to East Village, we're going to the East Crossroads. Something happened, and I think the city got in their ears saying, we don't want to subsidize 2 big entertainment districts with Power and Light and an East Village entertainment district. Let's do it in the East Crossroads. Well, now we're talking about Washington Square Park, and I do think it's kind of funny that, maybe there are more stadium sites than any of us could have imagined could have worked downtown. East Village, East Crossroads, and now I think maybe Washington Square Park could work too.
So that was some of our conversation with Jonathan Ketz of Fox 4. Full conversation up on our website, 96.5 The Fan. Of course, Odyssey app as well, as we got into a little more on the Missouri side, but also asked him about the latest with the Chiefs and some of the pushback that's been happening on the Kansas side and what could happen at the unified government level there in Wyandotte County with the vote and try to create this publicly owned, kind of like how they have the Jackson County Sports Authority. They have to make something similar to that on the Kansas side. So that's what is going on over there. But with what he had to say on the downtown sites and like how after all this, the vote is the answer. I get it a couple Aprils ago why they moved to other sites. Totally understand. But East Village was always the prime spot initially. We all know, as he laid out, why that's shifted at the last minute. And then we got to an East Crossroads site. What would have happened? Do you think the same result would have happened if they did, even if they moved from East Village, but they would have just done the Washington Square Park site?
That vote was doomed partially because of the Chiefs.
Correct. I agree with you. But let's take the Chiefs. Like if you could take
better,
it still wouldn't have passed. I'm with you. But his point of Washington Square Park, even now, whether it eventually requires a vote or not, and I understand right this second, it would not require a public vote necessarily if they were to go with this Port Authority method, but there are still methods to where it could if a petition was reached enough signatures where there could still be a public vote. I'm just saying Washington Square Park, You're not tearing down. It's true. You're not asking a bunch of businesses and you're not kicking people out of a certain area. Yeah.
And that became part of the story there at the end because they hadn't worked that all out. And so if you remember, Gold, like the days before, Frank White's like playing pool at the Chartreuse Saloon.
Yeah, all of a sudden I wonder if he's been back there ever since.
Nah,
you don't think he's a regular? Huh?
Probably not.
Yeah.
And so I wish their business well, and I hope it's succeeding. But no, I don't think Frank White's been back to it. But so I think a lot of things went wrong. And part of it was this push late. As Jonathan Katz mentions later in this interview, this push that happened from the city clearly because they didn't want to support two entertainment districts that were essentially side by side. And instead, one of the Royals choose that side and just kind of like piggyback off of what Power and Light already was doing and existing in that area. I still think the single biggest swing, if it took a public vote, would be that the Chiefs went to Kansas. Like, I still think that, like, of the points,
reality of, like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah. If we don't, like, then what? Then we got no teams here, you know? Because I still think that there's a part of that. And that's why the Royals have to keep publicly keeping the Kansas hopes alive and all this other stuff and be like, oh, no, it's just that site didn't work. It's all these other ones, right? That's why they got to keep drumming that up and making sure that
but they
at least appears viable.
But it's not, I mean, the Royals did not have to confirm today.
No, they didn't.
Like
that's interesting. That's always the other part.
There is something notable about that. I mean, the Royals could have said we are still exploring all avenues and we have no further comment. They could have put out the most generic statement. No, they
limited what it seemed to be the number one choice for them.
They were willing to confirm and eliminate the 119th and Null site today. They did not have to do that, even if there was reports that was happening. They did not have to confirm that. It happens all the time. Like throughout this whole stadium thing, there's been plenty of times where they've said we have no comment.
Yeah. The thing we'll never know is if you took it to a vote and you said a 1/4-cent sales tax, Washington Square Park, and then all the, like, let's just say the ballot language is fine the rest of the way, right? We cover the stadium cost. It's up to all cover the cost overruns, the normal stuff, boilerplate. Would it pass? I think some of it would be like promotion. Like, how would they? Because I thought the Chiefs in particular, but both failed the PR game the last time. I don't think the Chiefs actually, genuinely, I think the Chiefs didn't want it to pass. Like, I don't think they did.
No, but as the process played out, it looked more and more like the renovation plan was not exactly a real plan.
It was like a fake plan. Like, I'll take your money, but I don't want it. You know, like that kind of thing. Like, I'll take the cash, but I don't actually want the cash. Because they, like, you know, other than like a couple of commercials about a month out that said, Kansas City, where are you? Or whatever. The push was not particularly good. But yeah, I think that's why they're trying to do the Port Authority thing. I think that's why the Asperia stuff came out. I don't think it's an accident, Gold, that the back-to-back stories are one rep in Missouri saying, hey, he's trying to get $500 million from the Port Authority and circumvent the voters. And it sounds like Jonathan Ketz made it sound like that guy's got much juice to actually get that law passed in Missouri. Not that the voters can't do something else about it. So, like, and then the very next day, the Royals are like, we're not going to 119th. Like, that doesn't seem... No, I don't think the Royals are announcing a move to Washington Square Park tomorrow.
No.
You know.
913-586-7965. Someone texted, why do you guys totally ignore KC tenants? It was that crew and the ineptitude of Frank White that pretty much ruined everything. I mean, for 2 years, I think we've talked plenty about Frank White and how he was a huge, huge reason, if not the reason. I think we also already talked about the KC tenants going back to 2 Aprils ago. So... yeah, I mean, I choose to not really discuss the KC tenants on this show once that ended. There's been no reason to.
Do they still exist?
I don't think they're even a non-for-profit anymore. My understanding, they lost
their status?
That's my understanding. But anyway, yeah, we have acknowledged them in the past. Yep.
I don't actually know that. I have to look it up, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway.
Look, if you look at... Look, there was a lot of stuff at play. Some of it was just the promotional end was bad. Some of it is the plan was bad. They chose the worst downtown stadium side, and the Chiefs' plan sucked. And, you know, like, some of it's obvious. Like, we know where some of the pitfalls were. But some of this is, and I don't think I want to just, like, not say that one part of this is not the Chiefs or Royals' fault at all. And that is a lack of desire for publicly funded stadiums getting less desirable in every market across the entire United States. Kansas City is not the only place having a difficult time convincing the public to fork over a bunch of money. Because here's the truth. If Kansas had put to a vote the exact amount of money they're going to give the Chiefs for the Star Bond District, I'm not sure it passes either. I think it'd be close, but Gold, it'd be close. I'd be like, you know, waiting to the end to be sure that it passed. versus this way, which allowed it to happen. That's why he's probably looking at the Port Authority stuff. If they're looking at it, I know you can look at the mayor's statement. They essentially did neither confirmed or denied. I don't know.
Yeah, the latest, if you were this was to Fox 4, Mayor Quinn Lucas. Slow and steady is what we've been. Lucas said, don't count your chickens before they hatch. We need to make sure that we lay out is responsible for taxpayers and something that works well. Ultimately, the city council would have to approve any type of arrangement with the team. You know, we are interested in ensuring that the Kansas City Royals remain in Kansas City, Missouri. We've always said it's about putting our best foot forward. Sites might come and go, but we want to make sure we're focused on what Kansas City needs to do to get it right. That was a statement at one point in time. And then from Quentin Lucas to Sam McDowell today of the Star, as far as the exact news with the Royals crossing Hesperia off their list, quote, nothing changes for Kansas City with today's news. Kansas City will continue to work diligently and expeditiously with other public stakeholders, our community, and the team to ensure Kansas City remains the home of the Royals in a new transformational downtown facility that is a responsible investment for our taxpayers, our region, and our team. Up next, we will get to what's trending, and then we actually did talk some baseball on the Royals front. Baseball.
Not just stadium.
Yep.
The sport they play in the stadium.
That's right. JJ Picollo, the general manager and president of baseball ops, joined us. We asked him about how negotiations are going with Chris Bubich and Vinny Pasquantino ahead of arbitration. And why should you believe that Lane Thomas can have a bounce-back year?
This is Cody and Gold on your home for Kansas City sports. 96.5, The Fan. Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Men, it's the new year, and for many of us, it's a time of deciding to make positive changes in our lives. This is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health, and if you're suffering with erectile dysfunction and are tired of the frustration and embarrassment ED causes, you should call Heartland Men's Health today, because there probably isn't a better resolution you can make than to be done with ED. You see, ED doesn't just affect you, it can also affect your partner, even if they don't talk about it. But here's some great news. If you're like most guys, the treatments at Heartland Men's Health will give you back your sex life, because our protocols have success rates that work in well over 90% of cases. Seriously, you might even find you're performing like you haven't in years. So, make an appointment and get ED out of your life. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. That's heartlandmenshealth.com. We have 3 offices, Overland Park, Independence, and North Kansas City.
I love spending time outside at our house, but I noticed some paint was starting to peel. So I called CertaPro Painters to give us a fresh touch-up. We use CertaPro Painters inside and out at our place, and you should do the same. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated right here in Kansas City. So schedule your free estimate online at CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C, CertaPro.com. When choosing a painting professional, the choice is simple. Choose happy. Choose CertaPro Painter.
This is Kevin Harlan, and I'm here with Rob Seid of Rob Seid Ford. Fresh off a record-breaking year and a successful run at Ford's 2025 Top Volume Award. Rob, how did you do it?
Kevin, it's simple. We pulled out all the stops on price, on trade values, on inventory, and made sure our customers got an experience they couldn't find anywhere else.
Well, the race isn't over. 2026 is here, and you're back in the chase again.
That's right, and we're going even harder this year. More inventory, more aggressive trade-in values, and a buying experience other dealers just can't match.
Well, you're not just talking, you've got the receipts. Kansas City's only top-rated Ford dealer on Google, 4.8 stars with nearly 3,000 reviews. Voted best car dealership in Kansas City by KC Magazine.
The recognition matters, but what actually matters is how you feel when you call or visit Rob Seid Ford.
Inventory, value, transparency, and no pressure. That's why people keep coming back.
Come see us at 135th and State Line or visit us online at robsight.com.
Rob Seid Ford. Buy right. Drive happy.
The new era of UFC on Paramount Plus continues. Live from Australia. Featherweight champ Alexander Volkanovski.
He is an animal.
Defends his belt at home in an explosive rematch against Diego Lopez.
You gotta be kidding me!
And the always dangerous Dan Hooker throws down with powerhouse Benoit Saint-Denis in a high-action lightweight showdown.
There's never been anything like this. Let's go.
UFC 325, Saturday, January 31st, only on Paramount Plus.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10, $20, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-358-6868. That's 800-358-6868. Again, 800-358-6868.
Anthony Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric. Visit AnthonyPHC.com today.
For 75 years, Kansas City families have trusted Anthony for comfort, safety, and dependable service. Thank you for trusting us with your house keys. Anthony, in your home for 75 years.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the DM Injury Law Studios. Mike's got this.
Car, truck, or motorcycle wreck? Remember, Mike's got this.
816-888-7500. Mike's got this.
What's trending?
Cheddar, mozzarella, Havarti.
Number one on What's Trending. We've been talking about it all show long. The Royals have confirmed they are no longer considering the 119th and Null Aspiria campus site for their stadium. Still acknowledging they are exploring multiple sites in the Kansas City metro area. We all know at this point in time, it leads you to believe that once again, Missouri would be the favorite suddenly again for a downtown stadium.
After Kansas had been seen as the favorite for some time. Next up on What's Trending, Chiefs down to two possible firms for their new stadium design. Populous and Manica, both local to Kansas City, will put together final designs for the team, and then they'll go forward to that. If you want to see some of them, Allegiant, Nissan Stadium, amongst some of the stadiums that those firms have designed, you can see it all online. You can look it up in their press release, which they put out on social media pages. They obviously put some of those up as well, and you can kind of see, what maybe some of those might look like. Bills' new stadium, too, I believe, is popular.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, and by the way, thinking of the Bills, they have a new head coach. Joe Brady was promoted today. He was the OC last couple of years for Josh Allen, so it'll be Joe Brady going with the Bills moving forward. That also has a trickle-down effect, as Brian Dable was a candidate for that job. He now is expected to become the offensive coordinator with the Titans with Robert Saleh, unless he gets the Raiders job where he is one of the finalists. Remember, Mike McDaniel is as a Chargers OC. He also, I think, has now confirmed that is the job he took.
Yeah.
So he's not even in consideration for head coaching jobs anymore.
Did you see how the social media did him yesterday?
They had him wearing, Chargers gear and all that.
So he was in the Chargers gear. He's sitting in front of like a fishbowl of questions. And the video they posted is just like, he's like, all right, I'm Mike McDaniel. And he was getting ready to thumb through the questions. He's asking me, he's like, hey, this isn't going to be a question about vaping, right? I know how you guys operate. That's the clip they posted. Him asking if the question was going to be about vaping. And they posted the question anyway, which is very good. Their social media team is the best.
Very
best. Mensa and Duke have reached a private settlement. Now he is free to go to another school after the two were at odds over an NIL contract that was supposed to keep Mensa at Duke, their starting quarterback, for the time being. He's now free to go to other schools, though. Miami is the expected landing spot. Everybody knows he's going to be a Hurricane.
College basketball tonight, two of the locals in action. Missouri, a big one on the road in Tuscaloosa, taking on number 23 Alabama. 7 o'clock tip-off. Kansas State taking on West Virginia. 7:30 right here on 96.5 The Fan.
Lastly on What's Trending, Matt Stafford admitting to the press he's going to take a little time in the offseason before he makes a decision on whether or not he will play football next season. Obviously, no one's got a real good lean on that just yet. The expectation is he's near the end of his career, still playing at a very high level. He's a very good chance he's going to win the MVP this year. Similar to Aaron Rodgers late in his career, I kind of feel like Stafford's going to come back. I don't think you win an MVP and you'd be like, you know what? Win an MVP and no Super Bowl would be like, good enough. I think he'll give McVay one more year. At least.
That's what's trending here on Cody and Gold. Earlier today, we had the president of baseball operations, the general manager of the Kansas City Royals, JJ Picollo, join us. We asked him how negotiations are going with Bubic and Pasquantino, a little bit about the outfield. Are they done there? But we did start joking around as he got a little updated title. He's now president, not just VP, but president of baseball ops.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And looking forward, it's always
an honor to come to work every day for this organization, and just want to serve our community well and put a good team out on the field.
Do you eat a different breakfast? How's it work? What's the shift from president, previously vice president? Do they give you some longer job duties? How does it work?
Nah, pretty much same job. You're head of baseball operations, and you come to work every day, and you appreciate the people that you're surrounded with, and we try to make the best of it and try to win championships. That's what we're here for.
While titles are changing, I hear that the Philadelphia Eagles also can't get anybody to be their OC at this point in time.
Do you want that job too?
That's funny. Yeah, well, that's certainly out of my pay grade, but we'll see what happens there.
And look, we do the Cody and Gold Garage Show. You've donated some items for it every year. Since you won't need any of that stuff that says vice president anymore, they got to reprint all that. Can we have some of the stuff for the garage sale? Anything that says vice president on it is fine.
You're not going to make any money off of this, so I wouldn't worry about it.
We just want to raise as much as we can for the museum,
Okay. Be happy to help.
Great. Look, let's talk about, you've got a big job, obviously, not just because of the title bump and the other stuff. It's a big offseason, it feels like, for the Royals, because you guys were in the playoffs a couple of years ago. You come up just short a year before. What is the kind of tenor of the organization, the motivation of the organization, with like a week before pitchers and catchers show up in Arizona?
Yeah, so it's February 9th is the first day pitchers and catchers for those that are participating in WBC, but tomorrow's our spring training truck. That's always an exciting day around here. You start seeing the boxes outside the offices and, watching that truck getting loaded up kind of gets your juices flowing. But, we're excited about the season. I mean, we learned a lot of things from last year. You can't take things for granted. You're just not going to snap your fingers and wake up. You're in the playoffs. You got to play 162 games to the best of your abilities. We got to maximize the talent on our roster. We got a lot of work to do. We like our team. We think we're going to be competitive, but, we're also very motivated by not making the playoffs last year because we expected to be in the playoffs and we got kicked in the teeth a little bit. So we got to bounce back and show that we can take a punch and go win some ball games this year.
It's no secret, outfield, huge topic of conversation last year in the lack of offensive production. I think even at the end of the season, you guys had your kind of wrap-up press conference and media availability. You guys, of course, acknowledged that the need to improve in the outfield. Do you feel like with what you guys have done, are you done in that area at outfield? Are you guys done looking at potential targets?
Well, we're always going to look to improve the roster. I'll say that over and over and over because you never know when you're going to have the opportunity to improve the roster. There's no limitations right now on making trades, waiver claims, whatever you want to do. We're not in a dead period of any sort. So we have from now, really until July 31st, the trade deadline, to continue to try to make this team better. Once you're locked in after the trade deadline, that's what you're going with the rest of the year. But between now and then, we're going to always look to improve our roster. I think what we've done with the addition of Isaac Collins, with the addition of Lane Thomas, is we've raised the floor of our outfield. Like, we have a good idea of what to expect out of those two performers. And when you complement what they do as far as getting on base, playing good defense, we didn't add a 40 home run guy. We got guys that are going to get on base and keep the line moving, which makes our lineup deeper. But you put those two guys in, with a couple young guys that we're hopeful that will have good years. But most importantly, you're putting them in the lineup around the four guys that were Silver Slugger finalists, and we were one of three teams that had four Silver Slugger finalists. And, I think sometimes that gets overlooked because they were all in the infield. It's the bottom line is they were infielders and Salvi is a catcher. So if we can put people around them that can get them up a fifth time or a sixth time every night, be on base when the top of the lineup turns around, then we're going to score more runs. And that's ultimately what we think we did with the two guys that we added.
What makes you think Lane Thomas is a good bounce back candidate? Because that's always the question. Yeah. Anytime you sign a player that's coming off a bad year, what makes you think that good years are still there?
Basically because of his injury related. When he was healthy in 24 and 23, we had great interest in acquiring him then. And then in 25, he was just injured. He played, I think, 42 games. So they're really, I don't even know, we will call it a bounce back year, but I don't even know if it really qualifies because he didn't play. So, yeah. And in the 40 games that he played, he didn't have the success he's had prior to. But I know when he was with the Nationals, we really admired him, tried to acquire him in that trade deadline when we acquired Hunter Harvey. We were also trying to acquire Lane Thomas at that time. And unfortunately, not only did he not come to the Royals, but he went in our division. He went to Cleveland and did a pretty good job for them to finish 24. So we have every reason to believe, one, we know he's healthy. He had a small procedure done. He had plantar fasciitis, had that corrected quickly. He was active this offseason prior to us signing him. We've seen him hit. We've seen him run. He's healthy. So with him being healthy, we have a lot of reason to believe he'll perform very similar to what he had prior to 25.
You mentioned some of the young players as well that could contribute there in the outfield. Of course, Jack Caglione, a big part of that for you guys if this outfield is to improve. How do you balance what you're hoping to get out of him, but also you don't want to put too much pressure on the player? We talked to you a lot last season about just the timing of when he was called up. And, from the outside, it felt like he was, I know you guys didn't perceive it this way, but felt like he was brought in to kind of save the offense. Well, now it's a full off season. We saw what he was able to do, and now hoping that there's some improvement there. How do you balance the two of needing him, but also not to put pressure on him?
Yeah, very similar to what we were trying to message to him last year. We don't need you to come up here on June 1st and hit 30 home runs between now and the end of the season. We just need you to help make this lineup a functioning lineup. So the messaging will be very similar. I think from a mindset, that's where we have to be very aware, and that's where a lot of our work will take place, and it has taken place in trying to, get him to be as confident as he can in his abilities. I was actually talking to somebody earlier today and said, the funny thing is if he had stayed in the minor leagues and he goes on and continues to do what he's doing, very, very likely he's the number one prospect in baseball and he's the minor league player of the year and everybody's excited. Well, he's the same guy. So he's the same guy. He's got the same abilities. He just had a rough start to what's going to be a really long major league career. And it's our job to make sure that he's confident. And once he starts, seeing some results and some benefit, that's where I think he'll relax and he'll perform. It's not about him hitting 45 home runs this year. It's really about him taking quality at bats and making our lineup better, and let other guys who've been in the league longer, who've gone through similar stretches, do their thing and just be part of the team. And if we can do that, I think he's going to have a great year.
It's funny you mentioned specifically 45 home runs, because MLB had an article up talking about second-year players and their advancement, and they mentioned Junior Caminero and his 45 home runs he hit last year as maybe a good comp for Cags in year two. From a motivational standpoint, because sometimes confidence is a big part of this, do you go through and show examples of players that start slow but get where they're going, I guess?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And some guys respond well to that and some guys don't. It's really in their psychological profile, what's the best way to get to a player and get them to understand. Some guys don't like to be compared, but I think in this case with Cags, when you look at maybe what George Brett did when he first came up, when you look up Mike Schmidt did, and you look up what Chipper Jones did. There were a lot of Hall of Fame players that didn't look like Hall of Famers their first year. It wasn't to the extreme, but even Bobby, first year, second year, he evolved as a player. He got better, and he had the ability. And Cags, while their tools are different, has exceptional ability, a lot like Bobby. And he just was pushed to the big leagues really quickly. We did it at a time that we thought it was going to be the right time for the team. Didn't quite work out the way any of us hoped, but it's still early in his career, and we got a long way to go. And we're looking forward to, getting down there to surprise and really lay our eyes on the work he's done this offseason, which I know he got back to hitting really early and, was very focused on the drill work and the intent and the things he was trying to improve on. That was a big part of his offseason training. So it'll be fun to see it pay off.
Royals General Manager and President of Baseball Ops, JJ Picollo, joining us here on 96.5 The Fan. While we're talking about some younger players, Carter Jensen, I know we're not even at spring training yet, but his role will look similar to Freddie Fermin's last year. Have you guys been able to gauge on what you would like to see from him in terms of that?
Yeah, I think similar as far as the number of games caught, maybe even a tick more, that ideally it's about 80 games that he catches. If everybody stays healthy, obviously Salvi, we need him behind the plate as well. I think it can be a very similar setup Salvi mentoring another young catcher. I think the difference between Freddie and Carter is Carter has been an exceptional professional hitter, and there's more expected out of his offense. There's a more well-rounded player when it comes to defense, offense, base running. Carter can do a lot more. That's not a knock on Freddie. They're just different types of players. But I think, when it's all said and done, we expect Carter to swing the bat, to put himself in the lineup in DH spots where maybe Freddie wasn't that type of player. So I think we can get a little bit more out of that catcher tandem this year when it comes to total plate appearances between Carter and Salvi versus Carter and Freddie. But the defensive work is going to look very similar.
Because, they were looking at about an 80-game split each, weren't they? Like, by the time Freddie got traded, they were almost dead even.
Yeah, they were very much on the track to catch about 80 games apiece.
When you look at some of the other guys, I want to ask you about at least the arbitration update. You've got two guys, Chris Bubich, Vinny Pasquantino. You're still going through that process with. How are those deals coming along? Are you still, as an organization, somewhat optimistic? Maybe you can close those deals before you actually have to sit down for that meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it's without getting into too much detail. I mean, we're on record as a file to go team, which means once that deadline passed on January 8th, unless we sign some sort of extension of some sort, we're going to a hearing. But we've had a lot of communication with the players. We've had a lot of communication with the representation. This is not going to be a tension-filled hearing if we end up going to a hearing. Both players know how much we respect them. They know how much they mean to our team. This is just the business side of the game. It's unfortunate that you try to do your best to separate, but when you look back over, Chris and Vinny in particular, they've been Royals since day one, and we've got great relationships with them. Sometimes our paths take us in a little bit different direction, but in the end, we're on the same team. We want what's best for the team, and we want those guys to perform and be in the right headspace. So, regardless of how it goes, I know they're professional enough to move past it, and we're doing the same on our end.
While we're on the business side, I'm sure you're well aware of the discussion that has been going around baseball specifically with all the recent signings by the Dodgers. And I think you've even said on this show in the past, like, we're not going to use the Dodgers as an excuse or anything like that. But how much, I guess, easier or job change would it be if all of a sudden there was a salary cap in this sport or a salary floor in this sport?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would change, but in the end, I'm not trying to avoid the question. Like, we're in the American League Central, and, our peers are of similar payrolls, maybe a tick more, maybe a tick less, but our competition's the same. So regardless of what any other club does, the task that we have in front of us is the same. If we all were on a level playing field, sure, it'd be interesting. But, we've seen all the numbers that have come out here, especially approaching the Super Bowl, what league offers the most parity in baseball, because of the nature of our game. Just because you have the highest payroll, in our opinion, it's the most difficult sport to get through October because it's not about winning one game, it's about winning series. And it means you got to play well for a 5-game set or a 7-game set. So I think in some ways it offers different challenges to teams, and that's why you see different teams in the World Series and different teams do well in the playoffs. Where in football, it's a little bit more predictable. I don't know enough about the NBA or the NHL, but I think our sport is built well to handle it regardless of which way we go. I don't know with the floor and a cap or wherever it ends up going. You're still going to see a variety of teams get to the World Series every year because of the nature of our playoffs. And, hopefully I articulated that well enough. It's just hard to get through October. I think back, I don't mean to ramble here, but when I go back to 2014 when we went 8-0 in the playoffs, the reason why we were able to go 8-0 is because we had a rested bullpen all the time. Those off days in between, we were able to bring our big guys back every single night for those 8 games. If you get into an extended series, you may not get through that. You may not have your closer available every night. So it's a really, really tough thing to get through. And I think that's something that we try to focus on as an organization. Let's not worry about what other clubs are doing. Let's worry about what we're doing, do it to the best of our abilities, get to October, and let's get hot in October and hopefully have a parade in early November.
What do you think about the other ideas tossed around? The split season, in-season tournament? You've been around the minors too. You remember how that split season worked. Are you open to any of those things as far as baseball goes?
I'm, if there's something that I've really learned, I'm very much a traditionalist at heart. I love the game, the integrity of the game. But with every small tweak, it seems to have made our game better and our fans enjoy it a little bit more. So if we end up going to a split season of some sort, our fans, I think, would maybe at first be adverse to it, but then I think they'll feel the excitement of it when your team has really two opportunities within a year to make the playoffs. So I'm not saying I'm in favor, I'm not saying I'm against, but if baseball makes that decision, it's usually a well thought out decision. And most of the decisions that have made when it comes to any sort of changes to the game have had a positive effect on the game. This year, I think the first week of the season, you guys are going to be talking a lot about the challenge system, the balls and strikes. And you're probably going to get a lot of positive fan feedback because Major League Baseball has tested that in the minor leagues. And we know it's ready to go and our fans are going to enjoy it and it makes the quality of the game better. So whatever changes come, I think they're going to be for the betterment of the game.
Thinking of fans, you guys got Royals Rally coming up here on Saturday to kind of really jumpstart this thing before you guys get off to spring training.
Yeah, that's an exciting weekend. I recall back in 21, coming off the pandemic and, kind of early January, we decided to do a Royals Rally at the stadium, and it was very well received by our fans. And it's a great warm up. It's unfortunate right now, that we're not celebrating the Chiefs playing in a Super Bowl. There's only 2 cities that are doing that right now. But that always adds a little bit of excitement to Royals Rally because the city's fired up. But right now, I think, with Royals Rally, it gives a lot of our fans a chance to get out, sort of just dip their toes into baseball season. And, it's 8 weeks from now, we'll have our home opener. So it's a great way to kick off or actually finish off the off season and head to spring training.
So that was JJ Picollo, Royals General Manager, President of Baseball Ops, joining us earlier today, talking all things baseball. It was interesting. He was talking about the arbitration stuff with Vinny and Chris Bubich. And we know those can be really negative, awkward.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it was just, he's claiming that it's not going to be that, but I don't know how when those meetings, just the structure of it creates
The structure is you tell us why you think you want to pay him less, and you tell us why you think they should pay you more. It's a structure meant to, and you have to do it in the room together. It'd be like you and I having to sit in a room with the people who choose our salary, and just being like, all right, I'm going to tell you why you suck and I'm not going to pay you more. And you tell me why you think you don't suck. You're like, well, that's awkward for everybody. The one thing he did say in there, which is still always the possibility, which is he said, if they get a deal done, a deal would be obvious. It'd be the same as Reagan's or any of these other guys. And you get some sort of, sometimes it's not even an extension. Sometimes it's just
buy it out a couple years.
Yeah, you buy out the arbitration, all that stuff. So he's just saying, they're not going to just say, we'll pay you. Because the file number is only $500,000 apart. I'm sure that they wanted different money, but the file number is only $500,000 apart. Part of me is just annoyed that I couldn't just figure that one out. Because that means Vinny will either make $4 or $4.5 million, or Bubich will either make, I don't remember what his was, 2.5 to 3.
They're $1 million off or whatever.
So
on
2.5 to
his,
3.5 or whatever it is, right? 3.5 to 4. But it's like, he'll make that number or this number unless they can work out some sort of long-term thing, I guess, on that end.
Bubich filed at 6.1.
Oh,
Royals
wow.
filed at where is it? My goodness. It's like they're $1 million difference or so. So something like that.
Bubich only has 1 year left, so his numbers climbed. But it's, I don't know, it's interesting. The
Sorry,
CAGs part.
They're $1 million, literally, 6.1 compared to 5.1. And then for Vinny, it was 4.5. He filed, the Royals filed at 4.
So the CAGs part's the other really interesting part there, because in a big way, I don't disagree with JJ. And the thing that we've tried to reiterate on the show is, I don't think everybody, maybe it's not you, collective you. I'm not speaking to someone individually. You, texter from the 816. I don't think you realize how bad the outfield was. I mean, legitimately, it is one of the worst outfields in Royals history. It was the worst outfield in baseball. Lane Thomas and Isaac Collins and a 5% better Jack Caglione is a massive improvement off of what they had in the outfield. I'm not saying it's a win the AL Central outfield.